And then, so we get into chapter 50, which is negotiations. And in this chapter, he goes to Emery and he finds Devi, tries to make a deal with her to borrow money, but he doesn't like the conditions of having to give blood. So he initially leaves, but then he sees a loot in a pawn shop. And once he just goes in there and he decides he's going to get the pawn shop, he decides that he will end up borrowing money from Devi. So he ends up borrowing money from her, gets his loot, and heads back into the back to the university after that.
I like this. This drives at what I was mentioning before about what I like about Kavoth so much. The end of that drives at what specifically I like about him, because he's very careful and measured. He tries to weigh out why he cannot do what Devi wants him to do, to borrow the money. She wants more money than he wants to borrow, and then, the conditions and everything else we'll get into. And then he realizes, fuck it, take the risk. Not only can I, have my tuition covered, but also have a loot. And, he just completely goes in another direction and decides, I know what I like about what Rafis does there so much is he lays out for us everything that's at risk. Kavoth weighs out those things, knows what he should do, but then says, screw it, I'll just take the risk. And goes in the direction of what I would imagine would be, obviously he's much more comfortable. Now he gets to, now he can have a loot, plus he can, he's not sleeping outdoors, everything's covered on his tuition, but he's rolling the dice for his future. He does see, if I remember right, he does see prospects of being able to make money in the artificery. He's like made a little bit already, so he's like, well, there is something that could come there. But yeah, it's definitely it's a roll of the dice, because he has no assuredness that he's going to be able to pay Devi back, comfortably.
Yeah, he's digging himself a hole, and you never know if you're going to be able to fucking get your way out of it once you start digging. But I also like too that you had, Emre was a haven for the arts. There were musicians, dramatists, sculptors, dancers, and the practitioners of 100 other smaller arts, even the lowest art of all, poetry. But you get the interplay that between the people in the university look down on the artists, and then the artists think the university kids are meddling with things better left undone, and so they both have this. They have the grudging respect, but you wouldn't want your daughter to marry one.
Yeah. I like the world building in this chapter is pretty evident. How there's plumbing, sympathy lamps. There's like good glass, so they have windows and mirrors, which to me really makes a big difference for me, because you don't picture those types of items, and then they're mentioned, and then you're kind of like, oh, okay, so that's not necessarily everywhere. You know what I mean? So like those amenities aren't necessarily everywhere. So these two cultures are benefiting from one another, but then still, just like in our world, they look down on one another because they're different, right? Like I kind of like how they mentioned, they view the Emre citizens as like self-indulgent and decadent because of the arts, but then that's where they're hanging out. Why are they hanging out there? Because it's fun to hang out with artists. There's music and whatever, it's it definitely plays on our world.
It's a dynamic we see in our world. Like you could think of it with like the people who go and get PhDs, and they're teachers, but they have this very highfalutin view of themselves, and they look down on people that are like that are build homes or plumbers, even though like a lot of those people make way more money. But they have this idea that they are better than them, whereas like the working class guy is also looking at these people that have spent their time studying different eras of the world, different, historians and that kind of thing, and they look at them like they're jackasses. So neither side really respects the other side, and they both look down on the other person.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, and that's a funny fact to our world, right? The absurdity of how we all nobody had. Well, it's a lack of empathy on anybody's end, I guess. All right, or consideration of what other people's interests might be. It's all practical. I mean, carpentry, I guess, is more practical than certain other types of professors. But
well, it's just like specialized knowledge has its place, but some people think that if I have a specialized knowledge in X and this guy's specializes in Y, I'm better than him. Mine's better for some reason. Or it's like,
because it's yours.
Like, the only difference is one might be more lucrative, as it's a more sought after specialized knowledge. Like, but it's still, you're just learning knowledge that other people don't possess.
Yeah, it's pretty cool too when we're placed in the world as well, where we get that little taste of they're somewhere in Imre and there's live music, and Kavoth loves music, but he can't even stand it. He can't even be in the room. It's like it's so upsetting because that's how big a deal it is to him, which is great. It lays, but then suddenly, in this read through, it was interesting. Suddenly, he's talking about sweet eaters, the resin addicts, and we get more details about denner resin. And I remember, at least this read through, I was kind of like, well, that's almost out of the blue. And then it ends up being an extended metaphor for when he's holding that loot that's not even that great. Yeah. He's like a resin addict. And he literally says he would do the same thing that desperate, crackhead was dancing in the street naked for just a taste of it.
Yeah, because he is like, promising him anything. And then he uses the same exact words when he's holding the thing. I would have did anything.
I love it though, man, because in his mind, that's what's happening. But on the surface, he's hustling the shit out of this dude, man.
Yeah.
Like, he's putting on a great show. He's untuning the loot. He's talking about how it's cracked. It's for my brother, and I don't hate him enough to give him a shitty loot, but I'll give you this, and talks him way the fuck down. But it's great. Yeah. His ingenuity is so great in that scene because he reads the guy from the get go, and then
that's where you really get the sense that of his bullshit sales technique that he tried to put on us about his stupid cloak. It's clearly super nerdy and stupid, but he's using that same technique of trying to just sell us into believing the opposite of the truth.
Yeah, I
didn't fall for it, man. I did not fall for it on that one.
He is a hell of a salesperson. But and it's interesting too because the way the whole thing plays out is pretty great because he's reading the guy from the get go, and testing him in those little ways. It's such a great part of it. But we did skip over something.
So now we're introduced to Devi, which is one of my favorite characters in the book. I love it. Like, if I was going to get with any of the girls that are in these books, Devi would be my top choice. That would be the girl I'd get down with.
I like the waitress with big boobs. But yes, no, I also like Devi a lot. I think the intro is great because I it's hard for me on to put myself in the place of a first read through, but there's no reason to think he's a man or a woman until Kavoth assumes that she's a man.
Yeah,
right. Because he's assuming, he's assessing the risk. A Gaelet would simply have you beaten or robbed or both, borrowing money. This was not smart. I was playing with fire, but I don't have any better options. And then he somehow mentions, I don't know, he just mentions.
He said, I had learned in Tarbean that the best way to deal with this type of man was to act with confidence and self-assurance.
Yeah.
They were in the business of taking advantage of other people's weakness. Yeah, and then he meets it, and it's this little fucking tiny girl.
Yeah.
Who, in her own right, is way more powerful, way more dangerous than, a big burly man.
Yeah, she's pretty great. I mean, from the get-go, you're kind of like, you don't really know what to expect. He describes her with a pixie-like face. She smiles pretty, often. She's kind of almost like even coming on to him, almost in a way, very in a coy way, but subtly. And then, but she's very self-assured. From the get-go, she's very likable.
She comes off like a girl that grew up as a tomboy, but then grew into herself and became, a woman, but still had she's got a lot of the personality traits that, tomboy girls have, where they have a lot of similarities with men. Seems like she probably, the type of girl that is more comfortable hanging around men than other girls.
Yeah, I feel like I get the same impression. I like, we get a little taste of, he says Kavoth, and she's like, oh, I've heard a thing or two about you. So we get a little taste that his reputation is traveling, But then I love that she says, I thought you'd be taller. I thought that was pretty, that was pretty funny given, Kavoth's assumptions about her. Think he's going to be a big burly dude, and it's some little girl.
Yeah, and she immediately, I thought you'd be a bigger dude. You're kind of a little short guy.
That's always a funny thing.
And you get she's heard the reputations on him. He's like, "What have you heard?" I asked, filled the silence. Nothing bad, I hope. Good and bad, she grinned, but nothing boring.
Yeah. Yeah, I dig that.
He loves when people know of his reputation. This dude's got such a massive ego. Anytime he hears people telling stories about him, he's just gonna fucking just chill there and listen.
Yeah, he always wants to hear it. Yeah. Who's the well, I guess they do that later. They do that later where they have a back and forth about his rep. And he does that with the other Gaelic,
the other guy. Yeah.
They talk about the reps.
They go back and forth, yeah. And when his stories start to spread, he just goes and chills in bars and listens. So, he loves hearing about the rumors that he spreads about himself. And then she offers him the loan, which I like that she's 4 talents. That's the minimum, and the interest 50% every 2 months. So she has no minimum, which we find out later.
Yeah.
She purely is trying to come up with an amount that she thinks he won't be able to pay back. Because what she's really interested in is pinning people up against the wall so that she can leverage that against them to gain information or access to different things. Things that she normally would not be able to gain access to.
Yeah, it's definitely that's definitely more interesting. I dig her approach in that way. Obviously, it's not just about money. She has much more, interesting interests than just the money itself. She's definitely an interesting character.
It's kind of like Varys in Song of Ice and Fire, where it goes from robbing people to learning that secrets are much more valuable than their jewels. And so
blackmail,
yeah. So knowledge is much more powerful, and that's obviously what she's trading in. Is mainly she's interested in knowledge and information and books and access much more so than money. It's once it dawns on him when he really starts looking around, and he's like, "Shit, look at her bookshelf. All the books she owns is more money than I've ever had in my life."
I like her whole.
And she owns those in books.
I like her whole approach. How she's just how he tries to negotiate. She's like, "Yeah, we're not negotiating. I should have made that clear in the beginning." And she's not a dick about it either. But she's she takes charge, which is definitely respectable.
Yeah, and he throws that back in her face too. Because he goes, how about 2 talents, I said. Then at the end, Devi waved her hands, cutting me off. We aren't bargaining here. I'm just informing you as the conditions of the loan. She smiled apologetically. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear from the beginning. He throws that back in her face when he goes to make a deal to get the horse.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
To go to Traben.
Yeah.
Like, he throws that back in her face. He's like, no. When she starts negotiating with him, he's like, I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. We're not negotiating here.
Yeah.
He throws her words back in her face. But yeah, then he bitches out because he don't want to give her fucking blood. He gets all fucking scared like a little girl.
Yeah, it's interesting how that plays out because, well, first, we don't really... We know how bad that can be. But we're correct me if I'm wrong, but I read this as this is the first introduction of being able to douse, or however they put it, where you can track somebody, right? Like I never, at least I hadn't considered that until it's pointed out. But
I don't even like. Do they even talk about? Well, I guess the only mention they have of it is when Willem is telling him about the Medica doesn't charge, but when you come into the hospital, but you got to pay before you leave. And he's like, yeah, what good would it do to run if an Arcanist has your blood?
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't talk about dousing specifically, but they can do some damage from a distance with your blood. And and we get, like, when he's teaching hymns class, he talks about, like, just think of the danger a well-trained Arcanist could do with your blood or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I had considered that and thought about that when he's like, no, hell no. Why would I do what? I can't do blood. This is ridiculous. But when they explicitly mention, you can never hide from me, I can douse you out anywhere. It's interesting also, her reaction is like, dude, what? Calm down, man. Like, this is normal. Like, what's your fucking deal, dude? And then it does seem like he, obviously eventually comes around, but he's like, no, this is way too much. Absolutely not. I can't do this. It's interesting, her reaction to what he's saying, because her approach. I mean, you could read it a number of ways, I guess, because when I read how Ambrose lies to Kavoth about having candles and the archives and everything, and how that's normal. It reads as normal until you find out he was lying to him the whole time. You could almost feel like that's the same here, but I don't have anything to compare it to. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the way, like, I think of it is, like, would I take a loan with a guy? Would I borrow money from a guy if by borrowing money from him, he would have the power to slit my throat while I'm asleep without even being in the room with me?
That's a good point.
Probably not going to do it.
Yeah, probably not going to do that.
Probably not going to give him where he has easy access to kill me while I'm sleeping in my room, even when he's not in the same room as me, and he still would have the ability to kill me with ease.
Well, her response to that is, would I stay in business if I made a habit of malfeasance? And then, of course, he's like, well, do the masters know about this? Well, no, of course not. What are you talking about? But,
Yeah, they both of them make sense. Like, from her perspective, yeah, she's not going, if she wants to be in business, and she has been in business for a while, it's not going to do her any good. The first person she killed is going to be the last time she gets a customer.
Yeah.
Once that, that's the threat and the danger. If she fucks someone over without very good cause, then her business is ruined. And, it's not like she could force people to continue doing business with her. So she really can't do anything unless it's with extremely justifiable reasons where people would understand and they'd be like, well, I would never do what he did. So that makes sense that she took revenge on that guy. But even then, you start putting that doubt in people's head, you're going to be hurting your business. So it makes sense on both ends, where she's protected they're protected because she's not going to want to lose business. So it makes sense, but it also makes sense that both of them would be very cautious, and especially if they're meeting each other for the first time, you're going to be very, very unnerved by what she can do with your blood.
Yeah, I like their whole back and forth. It does a good job of sort of building out again for us all the things that Kavoth has to assess for. How this can possibly work for him, work against him. What options does he have? He wouldn't be there if this wasn't basically his best option. But he basically leaves without a solution. And he's only got like 12 hours or something. So it's like, all right, well, so what am I going to do then?
Yeah, and you get her true intentions. You get it in this chapter because he's like, what happens if I can't pay? Then we work something out between the two of us, like rational people. Maybe you work for me, tell me secrets, do me favors. That's what she's really after, is putting the screws to someone for the favors.
Yeah, it makes sense.
He backs out, and then, like we said, he goes and he gets his loot. Fucking really, really works the shit out of the guy. And like tests the water with the strings are old. Actually, they were fine, but I hoped he didn't know that. True, he said, reassured me of his ignorance. The strings are cheap. And then set the strings, tune the instrument so it would play very badly. And he played it. He's like, hey, man, I think this fucking bowl is cracked. I don't want to give this to my brother. Like, I don't like him, but I'm not that big of a dick. And he works him all the way down to basically where he could take the loan out, get the loot, and still have enough money to buy a room at the Muse, the meal chit in the room. But he was basically penniless after that, though.
I love, though, I mean, he talks him way down. Like that, yeah. But he does test it in such a great way because the guy asks for a certain price and brings it down before he's even done anything.
Yeah.
So he already knows he's working with somebody that's sort of desperate to get rid of this thing, and then he makes it worse. The guy doesn't know shit about it, so he just makes it seem like it's more of a piece of shit than it actually is. But what really speaks towards it is what we talked about with the dinner resin addict, where he's like desperate for this thing, but still has the balls to give him like a super low price. But the guy takes it. Kavoth's a hustler, man.
Yeah, he fucking worked him.
Yeah, he hustles this dude.
And that guy should not be running a pawn shop. No. That is not the line of work for that dude. Like, he's a terrible salesman. He got fucking ran over by the customer. It's not a good sign, buddy.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong line of business. Yeah, and then obviously, he goes and makes the deal with her and gets the 4 talents and goes back to the university with money in my purse and the comfortable weight of the loot strap hanging from my shoulder. It was secondhand, ugly, and it cost me dearly in money, blood, and peace of mind. I loved it like a child, like breathing, like my own right hand. And then obviously, like after his interaction at the Aeolian, he goes to Devi, and he pays her the interest on his term. A couple things, like one, he plays Leave the Town Tinker, which that song request. Comes up a lot. Yeah, she requests it. It comes up a lot. One, obviously, they constantly talk about it's the oldest song, so that lends a lot of credence to what I said in a previous episode with the Tinkers probably being either of the Fae or descending from the Ruach. I think that the fact that Tinkers, Leave the Town Tinker is the oldest song. Or no. It's not Leave the Town Tinker. That's the oldest song. Tinker Tanner is the oldest song. Yeah, I'm sorry. So the Leave the Town Tinker is, it pertains to, like, he thinks of it a lot when he's in a bad situation and he needs to get the fuck out of there.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I like Devi here. I like the things, I like that she asks him if the question he's going to ask is inappropriate. And it's interesting the question he asked because she doesn't really fully answer the question. Has anyone ever reported you, basically, is like the question, right?
Yeah, she answers it.
She does, but she doesn't answer whether or not well, so the guy confesses that, he tried to, come on to her and it didn't go well for him, but that's not really clear. It's not really clear what actually happened.
No, he owed her, and then he reported her, and then they didn't find anything, and then the missing step is she obviously made some kind of threat.
That's what I mean.
Because she has his blood.
But that's what but that's what Kavoth wants to know about.
Yeah, and but I mean, that's the missing key is she obviously has his blood. They didn't find it, so they didn't get it back for him. And then so she still has it, and so she obviously made some threats where then he went and said, I was lying, she could kill him. Yeah. She has his blood. She could kill him. And so he's like, I was lying. I fucking made it up. She spurned my advances, so I was lying. I was trying to fucking fuck her, and, she turned me down, so now I was butthurt over it.
I guess it does lend more credence to her operation, right? It works.
To her what?
Her operation, what she has going.
How she gets things done.
I like Devi a lot. She's cool. She's a very interesting character.
Devi's cool, man, but she's dangerous.
She's my favorite girl in the book. Not even close. I like Devi way more than every other chick in the book.
Who do you like, Tim?
I like Shaheen, because I don't know how to say her fucking name. No,
I like lady.
I'm joking. I like I like Devi. I like Vachette is cool. They're all great. I mean, Den is great. They're all pretty great.
So Devi had a book on her shelf that's called Tekum. Can you? I feel like we've heard this a few times.
We just talked about.
Yeah, that's the book that he tries to get fucking Bass to read. Unless I'm mistaken.
I don't think she brought up Tekum here. She talked about Malkath's The Basis of All Matter.
No. Just Kavoth is rattling off what book she's got on her shelf.
Oh, yeah, you've got Tekum, yeah, and the Eurobarica and the Mating Habits of the Cavus Dracus. But yeah, he brought up Tekum, not like a book.
Seems like Tekum came up a few times.
I believe Tekum is like Aristotle, right? In our world.
Yes, correct, yes.
Yeah. He's like a philosopher.
Yeah, he's a great
you guys
great
have
philosopher.
talked about him before. I just don't know.
So, but what you glossed over there is really interesting. The common ground that they bond with here, the fact that they're both banned from the archives. I mean, obviously she's banned from the university, but they're both banned from the archives. So they have this common, they have some similarities in the fact that they're even doing business with each other, but they get a bond in this chapter. God, a lot gets accomplished in this chapter, but yeah, it's an interesting bond between the two of them.
And it gives you what is her obsession with the archives? Is it just information? It seems like she's got money; she could fucking buy whatever book she wants.
Yeah, she's interesting.
Is it just information, or is there a specific information she's looking for? Does she want to get behind, like for example, does she want to get behind the 4-plate door or something like that? I mean, what is it about the archives that she's so obsessed with?
I think whether it's behind the 4-plate door or not, what it's kind of obvious is there's occult knowledge there. There's
oh, for sure, yeah, sure. I mean, that's not even. That's explicit, because there's knowledge that as a Alir he does not get until he's a Relar, and as a Relar he won't get until he's an Eltha.
Devi's very interesting. Devi's very interesting as a character because she represents like an outlaw, and she has this knowledge and this ability that she can wield, and she's not constrained by the university. And all of their interactions, there's always an agenda, man. There's she kind of plays it up like, oh, I like you, and there, our interactions, and we can hang out. She kind of plays that up, but there's always a give and take. There's always something on the line, and it's
she's like, Dinah's a hustler. Dinah's a hustler. Devi,
good hustler,
is like
controller,
a really good hustler.
Yeah, she controls the situation. Devi creates a situation where she can control the elements. That's what she's doing. It's like chess and checkers. Not exactly, because that's not.
What about this
analogy.
Den is a hustler. Devi is a manipulator. You know what I mean?
She definitely is.
If you've met the two type of girls, you know what I'm saying.
What, like, the difference is, like, Devi is never gonna be on her back because she doesn't want to. She'll straight murder a fucking dude that tried shit with her. Dinah sometimes has to fucking give it up because the danger. Like, she doesn't have the same power that fucking Devi has.
Yeah, Dinah will go along to get along. Devi doesn't play that shit.
No, Devi has much more power than Dinah, at least as far as her interactions with people. I think that's a large part of what Dinah is trying to do throughout the first two books, is to gain power. She's trying to fucking gain power, to gain control over her life and over fucking dudes. And then I could see her being like fucking Devi. What she should do is join the university and become a fucking magician.
Yeah, especially with her abilities.
Devi or Dinah?
Like her
Dinah.
With her natural,
I think that's what saves Devi. I think there are a lot of similarities between Devi and Dinah, except for Devi's just way more powerful.
Well, she's much more knowledgeable. She's gone through the training. She has the knowledge. Dinah's capable. I mean, we've read enough to know that she's fully capable. She hasn't had the access. And I also
Dinah has no power.
Well, but I also wonder if she has influence. She doesn't have power.
Yeah, she has power. She just doesn't. She doesn't have like. If someone tries to get physical with her, I mean, like, she fucking fights off a dude with a knife. Like, she's able to. She's not a total fucking puss or whatever. But
I'll say,
like, Devi could fucking fight Kvoth.
I think she's more reactionary.
That's a huge difference.
Dinah has nothing.
I think Dinah's more reactionary than being able to control the entire atmosphere. That's why she flees so much. That's why she's always going somewhere else. I mean, because if
Kvoth made a Mamet of Dinah, there's nothing she could do to stop him.
Yes.
Devi fucking overpowered him. Overpowered Kvoth.
Yeah, that's saying
she's
shit done.
Fucking powerful.
It's not just knowledge, it's sympathy, though. Even though Devi has a handle on it and has people's blood, Devi seems to be much more street smart and much more confident.
Yeah, she's gangster too. She's gangster. Too.
Yeah,
I'd be
I think that's why I like her so much. I like the danger aspect of her. I like that she's fucking a little bit scary and unpredictable, and you'd have to feel like she's a match for you. She might be able to overpower you. Like I like. I wouldn't want to be overpowered, but I would I want that fucking threat. I want fucking danger.
No, I like when I read the books again, I always feel like I would hang out at Devi's a lot longer than Kvoth does.
Yeah.
A lot more often.
Yeah, I would. That would be my fucking chick. I would be going after her.
Yeah, but I'm kind of with you, Dan. I'd like a nicer girl in my personal life, but I really like the idea of a chick that can go out and hustle along with me or for me and do team up to make a dent. You know what I'm saying? Team up to dominate.
It's probably a part of my brokenness that I like the fucking dangerous, fucking screwed up fucking chicks that would, there's a threat that they might stab you when you're sleeping. That's probably not the greatest sign in the world.
Sleep with
but for whatever it is, like those kind of chicks are the ones that I'm like, yeah, let me see what she's all about.
Yeah, I don't think Devi would be my long term, but I like the idea of hanging out with her.
I haven't noticed. We haven't learned enough about her to know what she's done.
No,
besides what we talked about already. But it seemed like Devi is
she challenged
a bad person.
Like it seemed like Elxadal tried to overpower her, and he wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, it seems like Elxadal was in the wrong for trying to overpower a chick. I'm just saying. What I'm saying is, it doesn't seem like Devi's a bad person. Doesn't seem like she's done something wrong.
Nah, she's like she's kind of like a in between. Like, she's willing to do bad things, but she's not necessarily a bad person.
Yeah, she does what she has to do.
Sometimes it could be bad. Like, it seems like she'll do what she has to do to get what she wants.
I feel like the jury's out on Devi. I mean, it's hard.
I don't think she's like a good.
I
don't think she's like 100% a good person. I think she's got some good. She's a gray person. She's good in some instances, but I think she would be perfectly willing to do some super dirty shit. I mean, she fucking sold the plumb bob to some dude. She didn't know it was for Kavoth, but she knew it was going to be used for someone. She still fucking did it.
Yeah, I'm going to play my own devil's advocate and say her career lends to the notion that she is willing to do bad things and be a bad person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of.
You almost, if you're ever going to be successful,
you can't do what she's doing. Yeah, you can't be like a fucking just a good moral person doing what she's doing. You have to be willing to fucking break some bones.
Yes.
But then so he gets his supplies and then he goes and meets up with Devi because he's got to get money for the horse.
Yeah, that's a nice little revisit. It's also a nice little revisit to what he just did. So we do get that. It's like we moved on from the alley, but she brings it up, and then we get, he gets that, that he's passing, that not celebrity, but he's got his reputation that's making its own, spreading its own existence.
I do like though that she's like. She's got that fucking. She's quicker than him, and she's more mature than him, and
she comes on to him immediately.
She's like, when she's like flirting with him and coming on to him, he's oblivious to it. He doesn't see it happen at all. Like, he doesn't even remark on it.
He absolutely does
she's
not
like,
acknowledge it.
Take a seat, unless you'd rather have a bit of a lie down. She nodded playfully towards a huge curtained bed in the corner of the room. You won't believe the story I heard this morning, she said, laughter hiding in her voice. And then he does not remark at all on the fact that she just made like a little fucking funny pass at him. Like, it rolls right off his back like nothing fucking happened.
I think
it seems like every time he goes in there, Devi offers her up.
She does.
She
does. Yeah, she constantly flirts with him, and he does not. He's oblivious to it. She specifically, like in a later scene, once he finds access into the archives and he knows a way, and she's like, I'll give you fucking 20 talents. I'll give you 40 talents. I'll give you 60 talents, and I'll take you in the bed right now. And then he just ignores it.
I think this is part of what really fucking pisses her off, because, I mean, when a woman, she's coming on to him, she's basically she's being subtle at first, and then when she throws herself at him and he just ignores it, like doesn't even make a response to acknowledge it, I think that probably rubs her the wrong way, man. I think it probably offends her quite a bit.
I never get the feeling like that she gets annoyed by it. I get the feeling like that she realizes how inexperienced he is and how oblivious he is. I get that kind of feeling like that she's fucking with him, that that's part of the fun for her, is how oblivious he is to it, that she can fuck with him and kind of fucking spin his wheels, because she keeps doing it to him. And she doesn't ever remark on after she fucks with him and shit. It's not like she presses the issue. She just like, it's like she's being playful and she's just fucking with him, and she knows he's a little inexperienced boy, and he's just getting fucked with by a much more mature girl, even though she's not old, but she's clearly, more mature in that regard than him.
Do you think it's his ignorance or his
inexperience,
uninterest?
No.
No, I'm saying, is he uninterested or is it his inexperience? Because when he finally breaks free from it is when he meets Florian.
It doesn't.
And he goes headlong into it, and
it doesn't register.
Flies right at it in complete ignorance. In complete interest.
Yeah, it doesn't register.
The way he describes her. Yeah, in the way he describes her, gives you the impression that he thinks she's attractive, and he likes her. He's friendly with her, but not. He's obviously, there's only one girl that he's like head over heels in love with. Like, I mean, Denna's his fucking chick. He's locked that down where that's it. That's his main focus. But I don't get the impression that he's not interested in Devi, like that he doesn't find her sexually attractive. It's just that he's, so inexperienced. Like, she's, intimidating in that regard to him.
He does the same thing with Fella, and Fella's coming on to him, and he also, it's as if it doesn't register. It's like he knows Devi, she's attractive. Yeah.
Devi's more
like
explicit than
I know.
Yeah. But like with Fella, he treats it like with Fella like it's absurd that like she doesn't want me. She's absurd. And like with Devi, when she kind of flirts with him and shit, he's just like, he gets a little uncomfortable. I think he realizes she's flirting with him, but it makes him uncomfortable because he's a little fucking kid. I mean, it's, I've been in those scenarios as like a young kid where the girl's way more aggressive than me, and when you're like in middle school or whatever, and it makes you uncomfortable because you don't know what to do, you don't know how to handle the situation. So that's kind of the way I see it with him, with Devi. With Fella, it's more like he doesn't believe that the signals are actually signals.
It just seems like it keeps coming up, and the signals are undeniable. And so maybe he's unexperienced, maybe he doesn't register, but it seems like a disinterest almost, that he's so interested in Devi. It's the only way I can measure it in my mind is that he's so in love with Devi at this point.
Denna.
There is nothing else to focus on. Denna, I meant Denna. I didn't mean Devi. That Devi's saying, "Hey, you want to go roll in the hay, throw in the bay?" You know what I'm saying? She is offering it up.
Yeah,
it's not the first time.
He never. Yeah, but I mean, like the only when he talks about her physically, the only descriptions he gives of her physically is her being attractive. So I don't get the impression that he's just not interested. I think he is intimidated by her.
But also, it seems like his mind doesn't go there yet.
No.
When he comes out of the Fae, his mind can't go anywhere but there initially. It's constantly there. And he has to check that back and then kind of come back to grip. But then he's a ladies' man after that, because now he's opened up that part of his world. I mean, that happens. There's realism to that. And like Dan said, I mean, I'd been in that position before where women that are older than me coming on to me, it's uncomfortable. And people say, if they could relive their lives, that was those moments were horrible. It's a horrible position to be in, because this is like what you want, and then you don't even know how to act, and it's like just like viscerally frustrating, and almost like it's like nauseating to think about, like how you acted.
It's almost like
did not act.
Kavoth. It's almost like Kavoth going into the Fae was a coming of age or a sowing the wild oats, where prior to that he had no knowledge of sex.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not like that. It's exactly that. Like, he had no knowledge of it. He had no experience, and then fucking Florian fucking
what it was.
Opened that fucking flower for him.
But he also understands it through insinuation and story and things of that nature. But it like Dan just said, it hasn't flowered for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he hasn't gone there in his own mind. So he's not there. So he's not seeing the opportunity because it's not something to go for.
No, I mean, it's clear as day that Florian flipped that switch on. Like, without her, that switch does not get. I mean, like, the girl at the bar fucking totally trips him up when she makes a pass at him. He fumbles. Like, that's kind of how I see him with Devi. It's like that girl in the bar, when she fucking makes a clear pass at him, he gets flustered and doesn't know what to do. It's not because he's not attracted to her. It's because he's inexperienced. He doesn't know what the fuck to do. But then once he goes in with Florian,
comes out,
and then when he comes back the next time, then he don't fuck it up after that.
Yeah, he gets exhausted.
It's a very literal. It's a very literal coming of age.
Yeah,
that's the thing. He's so oblivious to it at this point. It's just it's remarkable. It's obvious. It is.
I like the where it goes with Debbie and the fact that she takes care of his wounds. That they kind of they talk the story out. We get to hear more about his legend spreading in a couple different ways, where it's can you spread rumors for me? Would you mind doing that? And then it comes back in when she's, stitching him up. I thought you weren't supposed to bleed. There's another legend proven false, So their back and forth is pretty great.
Yeah, when he talks about like getting her to spread the rumor about him, like that's a great line when he's like, did I really blind the one and the other's still unconscious? And then he goes, would you care to spread a little gossip of your own? I asked. That depends, she said. She gave a wicked smile. Is it terribly exciting? Drop my name, I said. Let them know exactly who it was. Let them know I'm mad as hell, and I'll kill the next ones that come after me. I'll kill them and whoever hired them. The middleman, their families, their dogs, the whole lot. Devi's delighted expression faded to something closer to distaste. That's a little grim, don't you think? I appreciate that you're attached to your purse, she gave a playful look. And I have a vested interest there myself, but they weren't thieves. They were hired to kill me. Devi gave a skeptical look. I tugged up the corner of my shirt to show my bandage. I'm serious. I can show you where one of them cut me before I got away. It's great in a couple of regards. I like that fucking imagery of, dude, I will kill you. I'll kill your fucking family. I'll kill your fucking dog. And like
Joe Pesci
that kind
moment.
of fucking threat. Yeah. Total fucking spaz out mode. Like, and then you also get a little information about Devi, and she's pretty fucking gangster, but to her, like, she's like, I don't want to fucking go that far. It's not like she's like, oh yeah, no problem, I'll fucking tell him.
Yeah, man. I like her a lot because she even mentions, when she talks about herself, she says news travels quickly among us unsavory types, but it's mostly gossip. So she casts herself in that light, and we know what her occupation, what it's like, but it's nice to get that image that she's like, nah, that's a little much. Like, she's got qualms, she has a line that she's not willing to cross. It seems, at least. Yeah. And we see that further. She's a really interesting character, man, because she is willing to get her hands dirty, but at the same time, she does have, some sort of moralistic code.
Yeah, she seems like she works by a code for the most part. She's always, she at least from what she says, she's not had to use anybody's blood to go find them. Everybody's always paid their debts. Like, she wouldn't do that. In this instance, she's not with Kavoth getting bloody with her, talking about the vengeance. But she doesn't know that it's actually his life that's being threatened and not just his money.
Yeah, but and also, she's extremely powerful. And so, if she wanted to be, to go that extra gangster mile, she could. There's not many people in the world that would be able to stop her. But she doesn't go that route. She uses her power as a threat to keep her safe. She uses it defensively, but she doesn't seem to use it aggressively. It's more of a, don't fuck with me. You don't fuck with me, I won't fuck with you. But it doesn't seem like she's not evil, obviously.
No, that's part of what I really like about her that I find so interesting is she has that power. And she's like she's a chess player, right? You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have showmanship. She doesn't give a shit about any of that. Like, she has the power to do some real ill shit, yet she won't do that. She does it for her own uses. It's more the threat than actually acting out on these things. She's not trying to intimidate people. She has her business that she has figured out a way to make it work for what she wants it to work for, and she utilizes it. And it's I respect the hell out of her, man. She's an interesting character in those senses.
Yeah.
She really is. And I'll throw out also that everything we know about her personally also could be somewhat false. We kind of assume that she does have a moral code. Other people talk about her and call her Devi the Devil, or
Demon Devi.
The demon.
But
so there could be more to it than what we know yet.
Yeah, but we also hear, like, when they talk about the rumors between her and Kavoth, like, they're false rumors. Like, I mean, and we see the stories that people tell about Kavoth that are false. I don't get we see Devi enough. We get enough of her in person to know that, like, the actual, like, look, if she was Demon Devi, she would have just killed Kavoth when he attacked her. The fact that he attacked her, he went after her, and she did not fucking kill him, shows you that what people say about her as far as Demon Devi it cannot be accurate, because she would have killed Kavoth.
And that gets completely tied in too when he comes with Mola and helps Kavoth, and they have their little allegiance and that whole thing, how it plays out.
Yeah, she makes peace. She's great. She has the reason she has animosity towards Ambrose is because of how he treats women. He beats his whores, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, we know he's a piece of shit.
She's not evil. She's not evil. She's not evil.
As far as just to play devil's advocate, she still has a reason to not kill Kavoth. At that point,
not a good
later
one.
On, again, to get into the archives.
Well, she could have told him at that point, "Let me into the archives, or I will kill you," and she doesn't do that.
I think
she had complete control of him. She could have, if she was going to go that evil route, that's the time to do it.
If people are intimidated by her power, they know what power she's capable of. She's been kicked out of the Arcanum for it. They're going to spin that in a negative manner. That's just how that seems to be how the university works. It seems to be how they spin those things to begin with. They're intimidated by power. Makes sense. I mean, it makes total sense. And there's nothing controversial about that as far as I can tell. So it would make sense that that's how they would cast her. But it makes...
if she wanted to do evil, she could have done evil. She could have, multiple times.
Could you see Devi being some kind of a spark, Kavoth owing her the promise of letting her into the archives, her being the one that goes in there and figures out something that should not have been known, and
not now because he doesn't owe her anything anymore. By the end of the second book, he doesn't owe her anything. He's not relying upon her. He doesn't need her for anything. So no, like, I don't see a scenario where Devi plays a pivotal role in some bad aspect. She's definitely not evil. I mean, we see there's too many interactions. I mean, she's one of the few characters that we get a bunch of different interactions with. She's like a Sim and a Will, where we get so many interactions. We learn enough about her to know she's not an evil person.
Maybe I could see her, when they get the band together, I could see her playing keys,
Yeah.
I could see that.
She's definitely tickling the ivory.
Yeah, you could get her in there, right? Or, but literally, like, when I say get the band together, I mean, it could be, I don't think Rothfuss would take the route that I'm about to articulate, but, Alodin, Kavoth, Devi, as many people as we know that are good, that have these strong capabilities against Cinder and Grey Dalcenti and the crew. I don't think he'll do that, like a head-to-head face-off with a group of people. I don't think it'll play out that way, but I could see Devi, having some role in that if that was to happen. But
yeah, I don't think we'll get like a Lord of the Rings, the good guys versus the bad guys.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be Kavoth versus the bad guys, or like I think it's going to be individual performances.
So then it's more likely that Devi, since Ari's the manager of the boy band, then Devi is, she's the girl. She's the girl.
She's on piano, man. Like I said, she's tickling the ivory.
There you go.
From what we know in this, and the way she taunts it, seems like maybe she knows a little bit something about tickling the ivory.
She like dressed like Elton John.
Like how do you turn that perverted? Tickling the ivory, like
I'm a white guy.
It says what? Slander. Jesus.
Well, then the other aspect of it too is that I like is when they go through their deal when he tries two things.
Well, I was going to say she does force him to like tell me how they hired you. Tell me what evidence you have, right? Mm-hmm. Like she kind of digs further, like were these guys really hired to kill you? Like so he has to go through like the details, right? Like they knew I was a redhead. And are you sure they weren't just hired to scare you, rough you up a little bit, like all that type of stuff? And then have you gone to another, borrowed money from another, whatever she is? And then, so she makes him sort of tell him, which I like. She's shrewd enough to be like, I'm not just going to take you on your word. Like if I'm going to believe you, then you need to, give me the evidence. But yeah, I like how that plays out. And he kind of she talks a little bit more about she doesn't need blood to get people to settle their debts, but it helps. And they kind of go through that.
Yeah. I mean, she's obviously a badass sympathist. She could fuck people up. She can fuck Kavoth up. She can fuck almost everybody up, even at the university. I mean, she battled Elk Zadal to a standstill. It sounded like so. Yeah, it seems like she's pretty fucking is pretty capable of defending herself from attack. And which also would mean that she's pretty capable of going on the offensive. But I like when they're trying to make their deal and, Kavoth doesn't have good collateral. And then he offers up the future prospect of getting into the archives. And you get that sense that she wants in just as bad as him, if not more. One thing that I'm very curious on is why she wants in, because it seems like she's in a position where if she needed access to books, she has the money and the capabilities in the position where you would think she could have pretty good access to books. Like, it doesn't seem like it would, like, I mean, how many books can you read in a week? Seems like she could have a steady flow of books coming in where she'd be able to fucking be reading to her heart's content. So it doesn't seem like that's why she would want into the archives. It seems like she wants specifically into the archives for some reason.
Yeah, her ambition and persistence with Kavoth of how bad she wants to get in there and wants to know that secret entrance tells you that she's got something more in mind.
Yeah, I mean, she was willing to fucking give 40 talents and give up the booty for it. So,
well, I like the way it plays out here, where he talks about, I'll find the way in. I haven't found it yet, but I will. And she's like, that's a lot of if. Devi's tone was skeptical, but her eyes were full of something more than simple desire. It was closer to hunger or lust. I could tell she wanted into the archives just as badly as I did, perhaps even more so. So yeah, I mean, he peppers that in when it gets mentioned that she's freaking desperate. And then, she ratchets that up real fast where she offers money, and then even herself. Yeah, so that is an interesting question for sure that, has to be sort of addressed. I was going to mention also that I always appreciate, man, Kavoth is willing to put his balls on the line, man. He's offering up everything he has. He's offering up his past, like rhetoric and logic. He's offering that up. He's offering really his prospects for the future that he has at this point with his talent pipes. Obviously, he could win those back, but still, that's a big risk. And then also his sympathy lamp, which he's not supposed to give out to anybody. So
that's the one thing he doesn't offer up. That's the one thing.
I guess that's true.
He refuses that, but like I mean that shows you the difference. Like as soon as the Chandrian are mentioned, all thoughts of another semester at the university go out the windows, and he's willing to risk everything There's no thoughts of Dinah. There's no thoughts of anything else. It's like, I need to get there to see what's up with the Chandrian, and it doesn't matter what the risk is. I have to fucking get there. Like, I mean, you get a clear example of like he talks about all this other shit, but clearly the Chandrian are the fucking priority, because as soon as the Chandrian are dangled in front of him, he'll fucking sacrifice everything possible to fucking get there.
Well, and yeah, what becomes abundantly clear, because we don't really know he's getting a horse until he starts talking to Devi, and it's like his mind's made up. He needs a horse, travel as fast as he can, hard ground, like get there as quickly as he's dropped absolutely everything else that was in his priority, everything that was on his mind. It's all gone, and that is all he's looking for, is to get there as quickly as he possibly can.
The amount of money that we're talking about comparatively to the rest of the story,
it's huge.
20 talents. What's the most we've even talked about? 4 or 5? Like it's big business.
Yeah,
getting this horse.
For
an hour and a half.
He'll be able to sell the horse, but still, like, even
he's setting himself
throw that aside. I mean, the horse could die. I mean, like, something could happen, and then you're fucked.
He's all in.
And so, like, he wouldn't fucking take that gamble for nothing. So it's a monster fucking deal. Like, I mean, clearly the Chandrian take more importance than Dinah. As much importance as Dinah is to him, the Chandrian take a higher level of importance, even if he's not thinking about it. If you just dangle the Chandrian in front of him, that takes a higher priority to him than everything else. And so he goes fucking balls to the walls to fucking get it, and is willing to take some major, because like the idea that he would risk a 20 talent fucking loan for anything, and the idea that like he knows, like, by not going to these classes that he's going to get a higher tuition. Like, before he hears about the Chandrian, there's nothing that would have made, he wouldn't have gone and saw Dinah if it meant that he was going to get a higher tuition. And he's willing to not only get a higher tuition, but to fucking take a massive gamble too. Take a huge loan.
To put that into perspective, his original loan was 2, or was it 4?
4 talents, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, this is 5 times that amount.
Yeah.
And like you said, let's say the horse dies, he's fucked. I mean, he's friendly with Devi and all, but now he's in such a hole that's his life from this point, is just trying to get out of that hole. And he doesn't have a tremendous amount of prospects to make money and stick with his, studies and everything else. So it's a massive.
Yeah, he would have had to get her in the archives, but yeah, that would have been his out. But still, I mean, he would have been in fucking dire straits.
There you go, Fitz. Go back to your 80s rock bands.
I love that band. Yeah, I love Dire Straits.
That's a band?
Romeo and Juliet. Yes. Yeah, Dire Straits, man.
I want my MTV. Yes. That's your song, Dan.
I want my MTV. That's
so old.
So, but the one thing, the one thing that Dan,
so old, and you guys are so old that you remember
Mark
80s
Knopfler
rock
is one
bands
of the best.
that no one's ever heard of. And
people have heard of Dire
Straits. You guys are like, have you watched Frozen 2?
Just
That's how old you guys are.
That is
you guys
funny.
are like Frozen 2 and rock bands no one's heard of.
It's pretty funny that those two have dropped within the same episode. Although the idea that no one's heard of Dire Straits is kind of absurd. But I was going to say...
It's only because you're that old.
Dan's referenced this before, but again, it's a great callback where their original debate or haggling... Devi says, we're not bargaining here. I'm just informing you as to the conditions of the loan. He does the same exact, he quotes it. He says it again to her here when he's in the position of, I'm borrowing, this is what it's going to be. It's 20 talents or nothing. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear from the beginning, which is like literally what she said to him in their first negotiation.
On their first meeting,
It's a great little callback. Rufus is the fucking king of callbacks, man. he's just is tremendous payoffs, man. And there's a lot coming up in this next chapter that it's just like repaid reading, man. It's just it's so beneficial on the additional read throughs that you get all these payoffs that you just wouldn't even know were there in the first time around. It's great.
Yeah, I love me my my Devi chapters. She is
Well,
the fucking baddest chick in the books.
well, and you like Kavoth getting the upper hand finally. Like finally, we know Kavoth has something that she wants.
I don't like Kavoth getting the upper hand on my girl, man. I don't like that at all.
Jeez. Yeah.
Okay, well, either way, whether you like it or not,
characters in a book, and you have a
finally
jealousy issue.
So it goes to
That's
what
my girl,
Devi's
man.
all
That's
about.
my girl
Devi,
you're talking about, bro.
Devi is her main thing is information, and Kavoth, that's the only thing he can hold over her head, which is the access into the archives, and he's got a leg up on her here.
Yeah. He gets her to fucking come to terms with him, and he finds her weak spot, that tempting her with the access to the archives. That's her weak spot.
Yep.
Yeah, he leverages it. I'm trying to remember, like on the first read through, if that was, I think that came as quite a bit of a surprise. It gets hinted at that when he feels the wind or something inside the archives, and he sort of thinks, yeah, I wonder where, and then like maybe he's
it's down in that's when he's in the under thing
with Ari.
He smells like leather or something.
Okay, yeah. I thought it was a piecing together from two different sort of layerings there.
You're right,
but I do remember. Yeah, you sort of get a hint, and then, but again, on my first read through, I don't know if I caught it as much as on additionals, but yeah, it's
like I don't think I realized, like, when he's exploring the under thing with Ari, that he discovered the entrance to the archives, but it jumps from that to him talking to Fella. Like, I mean, it's either happens in the same chapter or the next chapter where, like, he feels, smells the leather in the wind or something like that, and then the next chapter is him fucking coming all torn up, with his clothes all fucked up, and then Fella comes out in her, with the bed sheet on, with no clothes on underneath, and that's when he's like, hey, do me a favor. And then the next scene, obviously, is her fucking running into him in the archives. So it kind of just dances around it. It doesn't spell it out, though.
Yeah. It's those little cues, little hints, because I remember when he's in the archives, there's also a couple points where he's like, I wonder, like, where the air would come from, something like that, something hinted at like that. But
yeah, it's a draft.
He talks about that afterward. I think is like after the fact, like after you find out that that's what it was. Then he was like, of course, like the archives would need, access to fresh air or something like that. And so there would have to be a place where fresh air is coming in. And so he found it.
Yeah. And he's good. He's good
there's
to his word, even though he doesn't tell her, he does find it. He said he would find it, and he does find it.
Even the first time that Kavoth opens the door to the archives, there's a mention of the influx of air when he walks in, I believe.
Well, like you go from Denna to one of my favorites. I mean, these chapters, we're gonna cover are fantastic, because you go from a great, scene with Denna, some subtle layers. Obviously, they give you a lot to talk about, and then you move into Devi, and you get some more. Because he's like, several hours later, I climbed a narrow flight of stairs behind a butcher's shop. There was a faint, pervasive smell of rancid fat from the alley below, but I was smiling. An afternoon with Denna entirely to myself was a rare treat, and my step was surprisingly light for someone about to make a deal with a demon. I think that line could be important because Kavoth has to trick a demon to get his heart's desire. So Demon Devi. It could be that people, when they say he had to trick a demon, it's that he had to trick Demon Devi. And then people who don't know Devi and they just hear the nickname, it just through the telephone game gets turned into that he had to trick a demon, but he tricked Devi to get his heart's desire. And then when you think about that possibility, then you got to go like, well, what would he have to trick her over? and we see later on how intensely she wants to get into the archives. It could be that she finds out how he gets, how he gets in there, that he goes and sees Ari, and then she uses Ari to get in the archives, and he has to, trick Devi to get Ari back, or something in that vein. He's got to do something. There's something with Devi and Ari where he has to trick Devi to help Ari, save Ari, protect Ari, something along those lines.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. She gets kind of the emotional, in terms of like the emotional interactions between the two of them. She kind of gets the short straw, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I could see that playing out.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think that's the top, my top theory, because I do think she's a princess, and I think he's gonna rescue her from King Koopa, the Barrow King, and
it's the most obvious.
And I think it could be that the Barrow King is the demon that he has to trick to get Ari back, and then when they talk about he had to fight an angel to keep his heart's desire, and this is the face of a man who's killed an angel. It could be that someone tried to take her to Haven, and he kills or fights and kills them. So maybe it's a Loden or something like that, and that's the demons could be could be someone from Devi to the Barrow King. The angel could be someone like a Loden, or one of the masters, Lauren or Elxadal or someone like that he kills to protect Ari.
That'd be rough.
Yeah, this is this scene in particular. While I'm not privy to all the theories that you just said, Dan, on a more basic level, how bad Devi wants into those archives, and the sight of her when she's talking about how she turns on women, but turns from impish to evil, and so as I was reading, I got these feelings that there's a real dark side to Devi, obviously, but she knows something about these archives, and she's not able to get in. And it's almost like she turns into this golem type of creature when Kavos said, when the opportunity is for him to be able to give, when he's considering giving her the information to get into the place. So my mind immediately went to, what is this information that's in the archives that Devi wants? Because there's something there that she wants, and she wants power. So there's something powerful there, and it's not just regular information. There's something deep there.
Yeah, she's not just looking to get in the archives because she wants access to the books. That's not the case. I mean, and Rothfuss wrote that scene where she has such an intense desire to get down there that it can't be, one, because he made it her desire to get down there so intense. She's gonna get down there. She's gonna find a way, and that puts Ari in her sights directly. So that's what makes me think that there could be a run-in with them. It's not so much a theory, because it's not like there's supporting evidence that is going to happen. It's just that if you look at where her trajectory is, it's aiming straight at Ari. And so
I hadn't realized that. That's interesting.
It's almost like Chekhov's gun at that point when you see that amount of desire. It's like, well, she's got to get in there, and so she's pointing directly at Ari, and you got to think that gun's going to go off at some point. So that's what makes me believe that there could be some kind of interaction between Ari and Devi, and so that, and the fact that they call her Demon Devi, and he has to trick a demon to get his heart's desire. That's why those wheels get turning. It's all speculation. We don't know.
That's interesting.
There's not evidence that's like, okay, this is what leads me to I have reasons why I think that is a possibility, but I can't say that it's definitely going to go that way. I'm not predicting that's how it's going to go, but is a strong possibility because of what happens in this scene.
Yeah, I mean, she so quickly goes from 10, 20, 30, 40 and just is hitting them and then offers herself up. It's like, holy shit. I mean, she doubles down, triples, quadruples down super fast. And he's just reeling in his mind like, I could buy this, this, and this. And he's barely had a chance to respond.
Yeah, she turns into an animal. She turns animalistic in her desire for it. It's that telling of Devi was really over the top. Not that it was, but it was obvious.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting too. I was going to say it's interesting as well that Kavoth's mind goes to Ari. I mean, it makes sense because he knows what's at risk there. But I mean, that again is kind of these moments where Kavoth doesn't have to do that. So puts him in the position of being thoughtful, but also heroic, where it really matters. Because, dude, 40 talents plus that ass.
Yeah. Well,
pretty tempting.
Which, by the way, he doesn't even consider.
Yeah, no shit.
I didn't even know what to think about that.
Well, there's a couple things I can't deal with that. tie into that I was extremely disappointed in. It's like, yeah, obviously, she's talking about her desire, and then Kavoth, I think, is rightly realizing that her desire puts her on a course to, run into Ari. But when, before, when they're making their deal on how many talents are going to get in, one of the things she brings up is, you wouldn't come to me if you didn't need the money. You wouldn't come to me because, I'm pretty and you like my hair. And he's like, it is a lovely color. We fiery types should really stick together. That's horseshit. Because she has strawberry blonde hair. She does not have fucking red hair. She is not a ginger. And I think Kavoth is putting it in his book to mislead people to not realize how attractive Devi is, because he's trying to keep her for himself and make people think that she's a fucking ginger.
You really don't want her to be.
Really,
she's not a ginger. It's a bullshit lie. And I'm sick of gingers trying to steal strawberry blondes for themselves. No, they're not one of you. You guys are your own thing.
Jesus. I did like one part that we kind of skipped over, where she talks about, and actually Fitz kind of talked about it, but she's talking about how she is attracted. She does this quite a bit, where she kind of pulls compliments from Kavoth, where she says, "Plus, I'm cute as a button," and he says, "Yeah, you're shiny as a new penny. No man can hope to stand against you." "Some women have trouble keeping their feet as well," she said, her grin changed slightly, moving from adorable to impish, and then well past the border into wicked. And what does Kavoth do? Not having the slightest idea how to respond to that, I moved in a safer direction.
Yeah.
"I'm afraid I need to borrow 4 times. Like, dude, what? Like, she's ready to talk about some fun stuff here. Some interesting things.
What girls?
Look, yeah, details. Give me some.
Yeah, pictures?
Just, little bit. Just give me pictures.
Well, that's where me and Kavoth are where I don't have much similarity to Kavoth in his approach to women, because obviously there was a door that was wide open and he just immediately closed it instead of walking through. I'm walking through that door.
Yeah.
And then when she's like 40 talents and I'll take you to bed, it would have been like, you can keep the 40 talents. Let's get to that bed.
Yeah. I think, yes, there should have been some negotiating there. It's like, okay, so
negotiate it. Well, I'm going to have to see what it's like in the bed first.
I don't even need the 40 talents. I mean, you had me at bed.
He should have, but he should have still been like, all right, so you're not getting in the archives. However, and then pull some Felurian tactic where it's like, well, let's see how you stack up against the rest of the world. Well, you've never been with anybody else.
Luckily for Ari, Kavoth is her protector and not me, because sorry about your luck, Ari. Jesus.
The joke's on Dan, though, because as soon as he got in there, he'd realize Devi is a true redhead down below.
Strawberry blonde, man. Strawberry blonde. It's canon. It's in the book. It says she has strawberry blonde in this chapter. It's canon. I don't care what Kavoth's trying to muddy the waters.
That is kind of funny that he does say fiery types after. Yeah. I remember that kind of confused me because, that's funny because I do remember actually going back and forth because originally it is strawberry blonde, but then as you read through because of this,
it says strawberry blonde in this chapter, and then he tries to steal her for one of his own. Man, these fucking gingers they're a tricky bunch. You got to watch out for them.
Manipulative, aren't they, Dan?
Yep.
They are manipulative.
Tim knows all about
it.
But
so this was a really good example where he does do I could buy this. Well, I could buy this. And he just keeps doing it as she's ratcheting up the totals. I love how quickly how it plays out where he's in his head and she's just firing at him. You know, man, it's great. It's great. But, so 10 talents, buy the information outright, not alone. If I get caught in the stacks, never learned it from you. And then he's like, new clothes, a loot case, paper, gloves for winter, and then 20 talents and guild rates on any loans you want in the future. Pretty good deal. And then he's like, worry-free tuition that for half a year, pursue my own projects in the fishery rather than having to slay away deck lamps, tailored clothes, fresh fruit, use a laundry rather than wash his clothes himself, and then boom, the 40 talents, guild rates,
40
and I'll
talents.
take you to bed. Yeah, she nailed it. She fucking doubled.
Yeah.
She went from 10 to 20 to 40. And you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Because you're already getting the vibe like, whoa, she really wants in there. And then you're like, oh, shit. This is one of those moments that, like, if you were negotiating for something, you're like, I'm never giving up this baseball card. It's never going to happen. Clearly, I missed something. This is worth a shitload more than I thought.
That's when you can negotiate terms just for listening to terms to a deal. Like, all right, I'm gonna need 12 of those baseball cards for us to even talk about giving you up my Bo Jackson rookie.
Well, so I love that you said Bo Jackson rookie. That was the one. I ate a dog bone for a Bo Jackson rookie card. That's how much I wanted it.
Like a milk bone?
Like 11, 12. Yeah, milk bone. One of the big ones. But yeah, it's interesting. And that's what could have happened here. He said, you know what? I'm going to need you to pump the brakes. We're going to talk about it. Let's check out that bed. We'll talk about this.
Pump the brakes.
Uh-huh.
No, it's
Let me see how good that
bed is. I'll 40 talents and I'll take you to bed. I'm like, whoa, what were you doing? Why your pants are already off? Like, okay, deal, sold. Stop selling.
I love the idea that he's wearing like breakaways. Just rips everything off.
Yeah, he just breaks the breakaway.
Old Commando Dan ready to go.
Oh, shit, yeah. Just fucking immediately just rips them off. Like, oh, all right. Well, deal.
Got him.
Classic. But yeah, then I like when they're trying to figure it out. And again, when they start, what did you do with the bandages after you stitched them up? I burned them, Sim said defensively. I'm not an idiot. Like, well, I mean, like, it's a reasonable question for you, buddy. Like, sorry, but you do enough. You put your foot in your mouth enough, then we're gonna have to question you on some of these minor details.
There were a couple things that I did want to point out that I thought, well, I think it's worth pointing out. I was talking about visuals for television series. The spreading of like things happening in his body, and then the fucking sprouting of a hole of blood gushing. That shit would be nuts. Yeah, that would be pretty great to show that visual on a television series. Would be pretty amazing. I also did like, because I think we just went past it, but I also did like when Sim's like he's like, dude, Arcanists don't do this. Like, this is nuts. And then he's like, to Kavoth, he's like, why are you smiling? And Kavoth's relieved.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, I was worried I had this poisoning or some other thing. It's just somebody trying to
kill me.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, man. That's Kavoth is the. I mean, it's not. He's a hero, man. It's the version of the heroic character that we like so much, where it's just like, I can deal with this shit.
Yeah,
this I can deal
with.
with.
He grew up on the streets, man. He's like, man, I spent 3 years thinking someone was going to kill me every day. Like, this no thing. This is something I can control. I can fight against this. But yeah, I like the way Rothfuss throws you off the scent of Ambrose, because he has Will, who's been the voice of reason in so many situations, and he makes a very reasonable argument why it wouldn't be Ambrose. He's like, Ambrose would have just ratted you out. If he knew it was your blood, he would have just told on you. He would have went to the masters and you'd be done. So he's like, and like he wouldn't just like attack Kavoth, because, if Kavoth did, die, and, Ambrose killed Kavoth and Kavoth died from, malfeasance, Ambrose is going to be fucking public enemy number 1. He's going to be the first person they look to. So it's just Ambrose, if he knew he had Kavoth's blood, he would not be doing what he's doing. So it's a reasonable conclusion that it can't be Ambrose, because Ambrose wouldn't do it, in this route. They just don't think that, well, what if Ambrose doesn't know that it's Kavoth's blood? That's the one piece they don't put together.
Yeah, they don't realize that they don't consider, that Ambrose didn't consider that it was Kavoth.
Yeah.
Well, and I like the way you pointed out too is great. Well, and the way Rothfuss does it is great, because they argue back and forth about it, and he brings it up multiple ways of arguing the point. Where, dude, he hires people to do shit. He doesn't do his own dirty work. And he gives examples of that, and then even goes as far as, well, he just gives multiple points in terms of, he does these things indirectly. That's, kind of his whole approach. But it's cool, because it does get you to where you're considering, well, fuck, man, then who is doing this? And then you start going down the road of, oh shit, could it be Devi? Which seems odd, because why? But then they give pretty good fucking reasons as to why. And the way it plays out is so good. Like in terms, and I don't go too fast, but I like the way that it's so great, the way we learn at the same time, because we know where they're going when they're talking. Because, like, all right, so how'd the last conversation go? And we're playing it in our minds as Kavoth's explaining it. And then, as he explains it, we realize at the same time that, like, Will and Sim and Kavoth himself realize, oh shit, that's right. She said, she'd sleep with me, and I was like, I just kind of ignored it.
That, we know Devi enough where, and we're, in that situation, it didn't seem like she felt slighted because he turned her down. So I didn't think that was it. What really, like, I'm assuming this is how I felt, because it seems so reasonable to me, is that when he starts to think, like, she wouldn't do this, but she would sell my blood to somebody else for information, like to get into the archives. So she might not be directly attacking me, but if someone offered her access to the archives for my blood, she might do that. And then I could definitely see her doing that.
Well, we definitely we see her desperation.
Yeah.
So we see that, well, she's willing to do just about anything for this.
Yeah.
So
the sex, I think, like that, it's like, nah, you're wrong on that. But the desperation to get in the archives, if he had explained that to Will, I think Will would have been like, yeah, that's why. But he didn't really explain that, so he just jumped to, she's a jilted lover. But no, that's not Devi.
Well, and it's probably been about a year since I read through. So obviously, as you realized a little bit ago, I had forgotten that we find out that it is Ambrose. So here I am right close to it. I thought that Ambrose did know that it was Kavoth. The guys kind of convinced me that, okay, maybe it's not Ambrose, but inside I'm like, but it's not Devi. It can't be Devi. Why the hell would she do it? I hadn't considered that she would pay for it while I realized that she could. Who wants Kavoth's blood? So then knowing what I know from talking to you guys and about the book, that maybe there's some angelic or Scarpy or something else that I'm just not aware of, that I don't realize. The point I'm trying to make is, what great writing! Just the fact that it was Ambrose, so maybe
answer, and then makes you doubt it, and then it is the obvious answer.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, he layers on all the complications, and they get played out with people that actually care about them. It's not just speculation; they're trying to figure this out.
Yeah,
it's pretty great, man. It's tremendous in terms of the way he writes it, and also, dude, 8-part binding. Devi can do a fucking 8-part binding. Son of a bitch, man. You start to realize, dude, this.
I think that might be rumor, though.
But no, I mean, she whoops his ass.
She gets to 6, doesn't she?
He does. He gets to 6, and he still can't stop her. So,
that's
right. I don't know how many pieces she broke her mind into, but she did a lot. She had to do a lot to overcome what he was doing to her.
You could say it's rumor because it's not specifically verified. But he's saying it, and he put it in here, and he's having him say it's an 8-part binding.
He does a lot to build up how powerful Kavoth is thus far in these books, and how he is just stomping the ass out of Fenton, and who's the second best duelist in the school, and he's just fucking stomping this kid, and then Devi fucking stomps him.
She doesn't stomp him, but she gets to the what is it, the fire eater? Or the eventually when they're in battle, she makes it to.
He can't stop her from getting to that source, even when she didn't have even when he had a better source than her. She had no source. He still couldn't stop her. That's why I say she stomped him. She did not have a source to begin with. She got attacked without knowing she was going to get attacked. Wasn't prepared for it. Directly, but then she was still able to fight him off without a source, and then get a source and get a better source, and then it was over from there. So it was she put a whooping to him. There was nothing he could do to stop her. He gave it everything he had.
Yeah, and she kind of just toys with him as part of it too. I mean, she's enraged. She's fucking pissed. But she also just kind of, I remember part of it, there's an element in there where she's just kind of like, I could fucking break you in two right now. I can make you do anything I want to.
She's, said, let go, or I'm going to set all your clothes on fire, and you're just going to fucking burn to death.
That, this brings up things that I didn't realize the first time coming through, but what implications does that mean for Devi and who she is, considering that Kavoth could have snapped Felurian in two in that way, and then now that I realize that Devi could have done that to Kavoth.
Well, also though, Kavoth, by the time he meets Felurian, he's on a different level. He's leveled up. In the situation where he fights Devi, he also is barely sleeping. He's had to keep his alar up for however many days in a row or weeks. Like, he's not in tip-top condition when he goes against Devi. But like we see, he is much more powerful by the time he gets to Felurian. And with Felurian, it's not sympathy. It's he calls her name.
Yeah.
Right. So that was different. Yeah, that's just different.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. There's a couple.
I think it's safe to say probably by the end of book 2, if Devi and Kavoth went at each other, it probably ends differently.
But regardless, Devi is extremely powerful.
Yeah. She's not fucked with. The other Gaelet, which comes up in another couple chapters, the other Gaelet scared shitless of her. So I mean, she's not to be trifled with. People fear her for good reason.
I'm looking forward to the explanation of why she got kicked out of school, and in what role she plays going forward, because she obviously has an interest in some hidden information at the archives, and it'll be interesting to see what that is.
Yeah,
I'm very interested to see what role she plays in the overall scheme of things, because I mean, it could just be she's serving her purpose as we see it now, but I feel like there is something more. But because also she's aligned herself to help Kavoth. She helps him with what we're about to get to. So it does seem like she, when she's picked sides, she's been with the good guys, so to speak.
But then he goes into asking for the schema, and he tells him it would cost 30 talents, and that's where he says if you don't have the money, you can offer up services basically. And he's like, do you owe anybody else? And I love he tells him he owes Devi 6 talents, and Sleet's like, oh shit, Devi? He's like, there's nothing we can do. Then Kavoth kind of fucking thinks he's just trying to, needle him for more money. And he's like, well, I was thrown off. I thought your reputation. I was misled by your reputation. And Sleet's, like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, come on. He's like, you're gonna pretend you're scared of this little slip of a girl? And then Sleet's like, he's like, she's a little slip of a girl? He's like, yeah, I was thrown off by thinking you're intelligent. It's like, you don't know who the hell you're dealing with, buddy. It really is laying the scene for him and Devi's battle.
Yeah. Well, and then at that, he's just like, all right, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Like, you're not a rational person. You have no clue what's going on. Whoa, hey, hang on a second. Because he's always going to negotiate in some way.
It struck me because Kavoth is kind of acting like she's a slip of a girl. He's trying to goad Sleet into, going ahead and letting him borrow money, but the truth is, Kavoth doesn't realize how dangerous she is. He hasn't for a long time now.
No. Yeah, no, he does not. He doesn't get it at all. And
it's kind of funny, though, too, because we just heard recently in the most recent chapters that she can do an 8-part binding. So he knows that. But apparently he just doesn't. He's not thinking through what that means, apparently. Because he's been getting little warnings. We've been getting little.
And he's just dominating. He's dominating everybody he comes across. Yeah. So she's not in the university anymore, and he's just not appreciating what she's capable of doing. And that was a huge warning sign that this guy, clearly dangerous enough, the stories that Kavoth just told about him, for the fact that Sleet shies away from Devi should tell you something. And to Kavoth's credit, it did, make a shiver go up the back of his spine. He was like, oh, shit, what am I into?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he should have prepared better, though. He had enough warning when he goes in there. He just barely gets. We'll talk about it here. It's coming up.
Well, it's another instance, though, man, that he should have trusted his instincts, because his instincts were telling him she didn't do it. Now it does get more complicated, and we will get to it, but it's one of those things. I've thought this a couple times, didn't say anything, but it's one of those circumstances where on rereads it's hard to remember that you don't know that she had a part but didn't do it. You know what I'm saying? Like there was some complication there, and that's what he's not appreciating. What he's seeing is something that is a connectiveness, but he's not seeing the end result of how it was connected. And it's hard to remember that we didn't know that initially. At least it is for me.
Yeah, and then so it finishes. He gets the crossbow from him. Gets the the little great line was like, I expect you could probably get it within 2 hours. And then they negotiate a little bit, and then he ends up making a deal where he exchanges the gold wiring that he has and the gold spool and for the crossbow. And then he's like, there's a rain barrel behind Grinsome Tannery. The crossbow will be there in 15 minutes. He gave me an insulted look. 2 hours. You don't know anything about me at all.
Yeah.
I like Sleet's cocky arrogance. He's a lot like Kavoth in that, that respect of, supremely confident in his own abilities. But also he's not an idiot. Like he fears Devi. He's not really arrogant. He's just capable, and he's confident. He's confident in his capabilities.
Yeah, I like also that sort of dynamic as well, where in a way, I mean, it's fear, but he respects. People have some sort of respect for, the negotiations of others, and it's probably more based in fear than anything else. But yeah, they don't just run roughshod over each other and make all types of deals. So that sort of respect builds out the world to a degree, at least as far as I'm concerned, because Sleet, Devi, Heffron, these guys are living in the same world and providing things, contraband, things that are somewhat illegal, but there's honor amongst thieves, I guess, sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, well then, chapter 26 is titled Trust. In this chapter, Kavoth heads to Devi's, and after some banter, demands Devi show him his blood to prove she's not sold it or used it to torture him. When she refuses, Kavoth attacks and binds Devi with a moment, but to little avail as Devi's alar overcomes Kavoth, and she manages to reach into her drawer and grab a pocket warmer. After igniting the poor boy, she convinces Kavoth to release his alar. She rips out some of his hair, attaches it to the moment, binds him, threatens him, and throws him out of her house. Tim, you want to take this one?
You made it sound like she lit him on fire. By using some of the verbiage. Boy? No, I get it. You use some of the verbiage from the chapter, but you're intentionally confusing what actually happens. But
the poor boy's actually the pocket warmer, the thing she draws heat from to strengthen her alar.
This is one of those chapters that the title is apt. It is all about trust. And it's actually kind of funny.
Mangle this.
Yeah.
Mangle it, both of them.
It's kind of funny. It's kind of funny how I don't see Devi this way, but she becomes just exactly what you would expect is, I trusted you. I trusted you. She just keeps saying it. And but it does also
with what he did.
No, I get it. I get it.
Big but surprise. Devi's got trust issues.
Well, I was going to say it kind of feeds into this stereotype sort of the way to look at it. But then, I mean, just
with her line of profession and the arrangements she's making, and then he attacks her. I get where she's coming from.
But what it also suggests to me is that she's a bit broken. You know what I mean? She's and she was trying to actually let Kavoth closer, wanted him to be closer to her than just a work relationship. It kind of reminds me of the drug dealer when you go over to the drug dealer's house and they want to hang out for a long time, and you're like, I'm trying to leave now. I'm trying to get the hell out of here, dude. I don't want to hang out. I don't want to. Pineapple Express does such a good job with that dichotomy.
I worked with guys that were slinging shit, and then go over to their house, and then I get stuck playing Tiger's Woods golf with them for fucking an hour, and it's it's kind of a fun game, and I like playing it, but you got these 3 giant mean fucking pit bulls walking around your place, and you got guns everywhere, and then you got little babies walking around. This is a very uncomfortable environment I'm in right now.
Yeah, I would rather in and out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
gotta play that delicate balance, so you can stay on good terms with the. That's why the super thuggish kids liked me, because I would be nice. I'd be nice. I'd be a nice guy with them. And I'd play that role and be
AKA
friendly with
a
them, but
slut
they
with
made
them.
me very uncomfortable. Like their lifestyle made me very uncomfortable.
It's a really funny moment, right? That moment in time where because I've had occasions where like I'm doing that, I'm hanging out at the dude's house and I'm like just kind of biding my time to get out of here, and then a bunch of people show up, and then I'm kind of like, wait, so why has he been dragging this out? And then I realize, oh, I'm like muscle right now. like I'm literally here trying to come pick something up, and now I'm like your buddy who's helping protect the situation on this next deal. It was kind of funny where it's almost like, all right, so am I getting a piece of this?
Dude, I've been in situations where like hanging out with strippers, and then like in their house, and then like the biggest cocaine dealers like in Indiana come rolling through, and you're like, what the fuck did I get myself into right now? Like, this is not, like, I am not that dude. I'm not a dangerous fucking dude, and I'm hanging out with extremely dangerous dudes. And like, I'm like fucking suburban fucking kid.
You're a nice guy.
And
You're a nice guy.
I gotta, like, I could roll with it. Like, I'd get along with them. They like me and shit. But in my head, I'm like, I got to get out of here. This is dangerous. Oh, stupid early 20s, man.
It's really
a lot of dangerous choices that I would not make now.
Well, that's what I was going to say a moment ago, that I thought that's what Pineapple Express does so well, is they play that moment out in a comedic nature, and that's virtually the whole movie. You know, it's just like this drug dealer who's actually kind of a nice guy, but at the same time, it's like, can I extract myself from this situation? Hey, man, we're gonna smoke, man. You wanna play some video games?
So I wanted to hash something out with you guys real quick, because there is a lot of in this chapter, some you get to know Devi, and you get to realize that she's really hurt. Like she's she may have thought of Kvothe as more than just a business partner, like you said, like our business associate, as you said, that she wanted something more, and you get to sense her how dangerous she really is now that she's hurt, because what do they say? No wrath like a woman's scorn. Well, Devi's pissed, and she's about to rip Kvothe's face off.
Yeah, dude. She takes it that to another level for sure. It's such great sort of character build that Rothfuss does, with her looking like a little pixie, how she's small and she's cute, and she asks for compliments. These types of character traits don't fit somebody who then, or maybe they do in a way, but on their surface don't fit someone who then can literally put you in chains. Or I don't know how you describe that. I mean, like, crush him. She can literally crush him with her mind, yet she's like fishing for compliments and teasing him and trying to get him to hang out. And it's interesting, man.
You need this chapter too, because of their relationship and what she does for a living. Like, she's so flirty and fun, and you like her, and like you go through the entire first book where you don't see the fucking teeth. You just see, a fun fucking girl. Like, she's witty, she's charming, like, she's fun. And then Sleet, gives you a little bit of a taste, like, okay, there's something dangerous about her. You need to see
that hears her
danger.
Reputation. Yeah,
you need to see why she's capable of handling herself. You got to see her handle herself, and so he does it in a great chapter. It's very uncomfortable, because you look at the way Kvothe handles the situation, you look at the way she handles it, and you're like, they're both fucking being idiots, but they're both hotheads. So it's, you can understand why they would do it. Like, you can judge it from an outside perspective and understand that they're both making mistakes, but you can also understand why they're making the mistakes. Maybe if you're not able to, empathize with their situation, you won't appreciate it. But I can empathize with them and see why they would do the things they would do, even though I still think they're massive mistakes. They both make stupid choices in this chapter, but it's a great fucking chapter to read.
No, he gives the real. He lays it out. He laid it out with watching Sleet's body language, and he's doing it again here. And then exactly when he says it, her face didn't betray her, but with enough practice, anyone can control their face. So he's watching her as they're having their back and forth dialogue. And then her body language didn't give her away either. There was only the slightest tension in her shoulders, only a hint of hesitation, and then it was her eyes. When I mentioned the plumb bob, I saw a flicker there, not just recognition, guilt, of course. She'd sold the formula to Ambrose, and why wouldn't she? Then he goes on to give, the realization of why she would do it in the first place, and, he could sneak into the archives. Hell, with the resources at Ambrose's disposal, he might not even have to do that. But what he basically goes on to explain is that Devi's in a situation where, because of what he saw of how badly she wanted to get in the archives, Ambrose can offer her something towards that, he can offer basically, and that's where he's kind of using his imagination. I mean, just imagine what he'd be able to offer her, when he bought an entire inn just to spite Kvothe. So how much would he be willing to pay to get hold of his blood? So that's
in reality, she despises Ambrose.
And respects.
He's missing that piece of the puzzle, but
and he also doesn't realize how much she respects the reputation she has and the situation that she has, and she points it out where she would never do something like that. He doesn't know that, and he's just running with his imagination, with trying to picture together justification of what could happen, and not trusting his original instincts that she wouldn't have done it. But like you said, he makes a mistake and just runs with it.
And he's sleep deprived. He's stressed out. He's not thinking clearly, which he admits later on. But it's understandable why he would, because she does. We find out she did make the plumb bob. She made it for someone. She didn't sell the schema, the how it's made, but she does make it for someone. And so he's right. He reads her body language right on that. But he jumps to conclusions from there that are incorrect. And the way he with us knowing the story, the way he should have handled it was like, look, someone is using malfeasance against me. Is there any way that someone got a hold of my blood from you? Because I can't think of any way else someone is able to, use malfeasance against me. And then let her talk.
He would have been able to decipher it too.
Is it like, can we come up with some kind of a deal where, you could show me my blood, so I can see, can you check it? Can you make sure?
Making demands.
Yeah. Be more diplomatic about it.
Well, and be more open.
Instead of attacking her, he would have been able to figure out what, or at least get some clues, because somebody came to her and said, can I have Kvothe's blood?
Yeah. Dude, also, she likes the guy. So, and she's made that pretty clear. Now, also, they have a business relationship, and he can misread that all he wants, but you can at least try. You can just kind of tell her the situation, be more open with her, tell her what's going on, and then, you guys could problem solve the situation, or at least she can be more open and defend. Like Fitz said, he could read what she's saying. If he's so good at reading a liar, when the question's posed directly to her, she's probably going to give something up.
Yeah.
Right? So then she could at least come true and say, yes, I made the plumb bob, but I didn't know who it was for. And I didn't know, she could then explain things. Who bought it from you? Was it Ambrose, or was it one of Ambrose's little lickspittles that bought it?
Yeah. Now what's going on is he is now very confident that she's the one doing it. So now he thinks she is attacking him. So one of the worries would be that she would be able to hide the fact, she would be able to cover it up. And so that he needs to put her in a position where she has to show it to him now, that she can't cover her tracks. So that would be one of the aspects of it. And I think the other big aspect of it is he grossly overestimated his abilities to stop her.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, and so that's the thing, like moving forward, obviously, he's forced at this point to be very diplomatic with her. If there was some sort of similar situation and he knew that she could run over him with this, then he would have played it completely fucking differently, obviously, than what he did.
And I'll take Kvoth's side to some extent because he has no experience of anyone being stronger than him as far as the Alar goes.
Not
up to this point. Yeah. Up to this point, he thinks he's number one contender.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, he's grossly overestimating his own abilities versus her. He's not giving her enough respect. And then on her side, like when he tells her that someone is using malfeasance against me, she becomes very sarcastic and dismissive and flippant. And it's like, no, that's not how you handle this. Like, you should have been, reassuring. Like, look, I understand. Malfeasance is not a fucking joke. Someone is trying to kill him, and she's just being flippant about it. It's like, no, that's not a normal response. Like, she got super defensive and went into sarcastic, flippant mode, and that was just a completely reckless reaction from her when she should have been trying to put out flames. Instead, she just fucking ignited everything.
Yeah, and unfortunately, once he pulls the Mamet out, that changes everything. And
she started first.
No, I get that. Well, I was going to say.
I'm sorry. He pulled out the Mamet first.
Yeah,
and then she started reaching. Yeah.
Well, so then he's saying, look, someone has been attacking me. I need to make sure my blood is, and then she starts reading for the drawer, and then that's when nothing's going back after that point. They've passed the point of no return.
Once he pulled out the Mamet, she
refuses.
Because at that point, that is a major threat. When he
fucked
pulls
up
out the Mamet and he sticks her hair on it, that is a legitimate threat of murder. And it's like she is 100% justified in immediately trying. At that point, Kvoth had gone too far. She can't just now try to calm him down. She's got to try to defend herself. And she does know that Kvoth has got a reputation of being extremely powerful. She can't just assume at this point that he's not going to do something extremely reckless and dangerous for her. So from there, it was over. As soon as he pulled out the Mamet, it was going to happen the way it happened.
Yeah.
Well, I had a problem with why she didn't, show him the blood. I mean, the reason why he pulled out the Mamet is because she refused, and that's
correct. Yeah, she should have reassured him. If before he pulled out the Mamet, she had a chance to reassure him and to make a deal and to come up with some kind of an arrangement. If she was in how I would typically expect her to react is to needle Kvoth for a better position to get something out of him. Like, okay, I will show you your blood, but if you're gonna put this on me, where you're gonna accuse me of this shit, and you're gonna force me to show you this shit, I'll show it to you, but you're gonna have to let me in the archives. Or
there should have been
some kind of negotiation should have took place at that point. Instead of being so dismissive, she should have went into a negotiation mode and took advantage of the situation.
She got defensive.
Yeah.
She got defensive, and that's I kind of sided with Kvoth on that point.
Which, it shows that she does think of him. She was thinking of him as a friend. So she's hurt.
Oh,
you can see she's hurt by the accusation.
What's also very... like what Fitz was going at, and it hits me the same in a similar way. When she first puts the blood in the vial, she assures him that there's a way to seal it that you can tell it's never been unsealed. And then the idea that she can't even show it to him, that screams guilt.
Yeah,
and like you said, they both ratcheted up too quickly because it could have been if they were talking, if they were both being more diplomatic and more level-headed about it, then they should have come to some sort of agreement where they both come out with what they want from this situation to some degree. And he either gets to see the blood or she can at least explain what the hell's going on here. But instead, it just takes off real quick. And it's a super tense chapter. But like you said, it's uncomfortable because it is like, well, wait, we've seen the vial. We saw how it put in there, and she even gave him reassurance that once he gets it back, he'll be able to see it's never been tampered with. So you can't reassure me beyond that. I just have to take your word for it. That's a bit much.
And after I pay back the loan, then you'll show it to me just to make sure. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit much, which he knew that going in. That was a problem. He wanted to in the first place. He had all those instincts. But, they both just misplayed their hands so bad.
Well, and one piece of growth for him is there's almost a similar situation with Vachette, with Adim. He's like, I'm sick of these people beating me up, threatening to kill me. They're going to fucking, cut off my thumbs or kill me. He's like, I'm done with this. So then he goes and like collects the hot water, gets the thread, the piece of iron to break swords, and then, takes a piece of her hair. But he does all the preparation to be able to fight them. But then he just goes and he plays her music and he calms the situation down. So there is, we do see a very similar situation where he's under threat and direct threat from this person, but instead of ratcheting it up, he calms the situation down. And he makes her see another side of him. So we do, it's a nice touch that not a lot of people mention it, but it is, I think it shows a lot of growth from this moment.
Yeah, that's a good point. And there is a lot of that. I almost forget that you do see it in so many ways that he approaches situations differently. But he's still such a hothead, like with the mayor and his aunt.
Yeah,
he fucking loses it, and you're like, dude, man, you could have approached that about the very differently.
Talk shit about the Rue, it's over.
Yeah, fuck, man. He could have. Well, and what's kind of funny about that is, this never happens. Like, come on, bro. This happens all the time. Now, she talks better shit than anyone we've heard thus far. Yeah. She lays it on super thick and super vehement.
Thanking him for killing Rue bastards. That's what really sets him off.
That's pretty brutal.
But on this one, I love the battle. I love seeing like a high intense battle back and forth where he uses the Mamet with her hair and he tries to bind her where she can't move her body, her arms and legs. But he binds her, and then, and he took preparation. He like went and got ash from a fire at the Aeolian. And so that's his source. So he prepared for this. And when he first walks in, he stumbles into her and snatches a piece of her hair. It doesn't say that, but that's obviously how he got her hair to use on the Mamet. So like he wrote it in, subtly where that's what was going on. And he does the same thing to Vachette later on. He stumbles into her and snatches a piece of her hair. But when he binds her and then she keeps moving her hand forward and he's like, oh shit, this girl's fucking tough. And then he creates, 3 bindings, and then she keeps moving forward. And then he goes 5 and she keeps moving forward. And then he's like, she pulls out the fucking, the poor boy, the big, furnace heater thing. And he tries, for 6 and gets it, and 7, he can't get it, but he gets 6 bindings. He's gone further than he's ever gone before. Mm-hmm. And like when he did the 5th binding against her, she's like, oh shit, you are good. She's like, I almost believe the stories about you. And
she's like turned on. How badass is Devi, man?
Well, and she's like,
she never loses control.
She's like, yeah, you think you can do this to me? She's like, Master Doll, Elsa Doll couldn't do this to me. Do you know why they kicked me out? Because they couldn't fucking handle me. I was too fucking strong for them. She's like, what does she say?
This is my favorite line. She says,
the storm in an ocean.
Like the ocean in a storm. Like the ocean in a storm. Like, that's...
I love the confidence.
She's one of my favorite girl characters in any book I've ever read. I love Devi so much. Even when she's making like terrible choices, like she's just fucking the perfect amount of fucking confidence, charm, wit, danger, gangsterness. Like she's just she's a dynamic female character. Like if you read this book and you don't think there's great female characters, like I don't know how you can read Devi and not be like, man, that girl is fucking badass.
Yeah, in this chapter especially, she's just she's overwhelmingly awesome.
Yeah.
What I find so great about how Rothfuss wrote this as well is that Kvothe is hobbled. He's not at his full potential, right? He does take the bindings as farther than he ever has before. Devi, we have heard, can do 8. He takes it to 7. Doesn't sound like the 7th did much of anything, but he takes it to just about where she is. So what I like so much about that is it still leaves us thinking he might be able to, he's still early on in his training, so to speak, as probably compared to Devi. Devi was a student, was thrown out, already had this power while she was still at the university. He's still developing. So it doesn't tell us he can't do what she can do. By book 3, it seems like he's all powerful, right? He's super, super duper powerful. But it's kind of great to have all those outs if you're going to be, the big fan of Kvothe and just say like, he was hobbled. There's these outs of why he couldn't stack up against her. It's much more clever than having him at full potential than trying to do it, because also you're in his head and he's making these excuses which are legitimate because he isn't at his full capacity. He hasn't been for weeks, or I guess days.
Yeah,
these things happen so fast.
While, yeah,
he just fell off the roof like what, a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Yeah, I don't know how long it's been at this point. Probably like a week or so. But yeah,
he's still hurt. He's still healing, and he's not healing so quickly because he's not getting all his sleep.
Yeah, Rothfuss gives him the out to it. Gives you enough, reason to be like, well, could he fucking beat Devi if he was, had his full capabilities? But she pushed him further than he thought he could go. Period. I mean, he thought 5 bindings was his outside limit. But yeah, it'd be curious. I think he would waste her now. Not waste her, but I think he'd beat her now. After 2 books, I think he's gone to a whole nother level.
It definitely seems like it. Yeah, he attains a lot more skill, and then if we're to believe, the 5 hands of rings and all that, I mean, it sounds like he's got massive control and mastery over these things.
Oh yeah, well by the end of the 3rd book, surely, but even by the end of the 2nd book, I think, what we see him do to the bandits, we're like, whoa, this is it's another level. He's taking it to another level, what he's doing.
I love the sympathy itself once she gets the burner. It's over, obviously, but what she does to him is fucking horrifying. I mean, if you can picture like that, being in a position like that, that's one of the worst things personally that I could picture, to have just no control and being basically crushed, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, it seemed like that she had it under control before she even broke that thing out. Like Kvothe Solar didn't stand.
Well,
he stood a chance maybe if he was healthy, but
no, not in that situation. The situation he was in, he couldn't stop her. He gave everything he had to try to stop her, and he couldn't. But what I liked is that, she's like, I don't have a good link to you, but I have a link to clothing, and if you don't fucking let go, I will just set your clothes on fire. And I will watch you burn to death, and I will laugh and laugh and laugh.
And Kvothe's immediate thought was, my cloak.
Yeah, my nerdy cloak.
Yeah, that's so funny, man. My shirts. Oh man, I'm running out of shirts. He's thinking about his laundry all of a sudden.
It's like, no, you're dead, dude. You're getting burnt to a crisp. But he lets go, and then she slams the door shut on him to where he can't even talk. He can barely breathe. So, she really locks him down. It shows the difference, having a good source versus, you got a pinch of ash from a fire down the street.
Well, and then, dude, it's ironic to me that, maybe irony is not the right word, but when she spits on him, like for me, that would be the moment that I'm like, I'm gonna fucking kill you. Like that's the moments where it's like, are you like she almost crushed him to death, but you spit on me, like I'm gonna rip your fucking face off. Like that's where I would just go next level. And when I read it, I'm just like, dude, like it sends it to that other level where it's just like I would see nothing but red at this point. But
it's just, before we get too far away from it, I just want to reiterate between Kavoth breaking his mind apart and Devi's hand inching further and further into that drawer, and then dropping that poor boy onto her table, and then once she's her and her being bound, but then when she switches the table on him, and she has him bound, and then reaches him and grabs a big lock of his hair and rips it out. The imagery in this chapter is another one. It's another one of these chapters where the imagery is so beautifully done, man. It just sticks with you. Like as we talk about this, there's literally pictures in my head of or videos in my head of these two sitting across from each other at a table and battling it out. It's really well done.
It's funny, man. I access it every time. It's one of those things. I have it at the Aeolian. There's quite a few in here that you see it. There's a feel, and you get it every time. Spinning Leaf, I get the same thing. When he was out in the woods by himself, I get the one of the things that this time I picked up on, but I don't remember picking up as much in previous reads, was the precision and control, like that he was just learning with in Elk Sadal's class, what they were more concentrating on. When she breaks the moment, she breaks it to give him an exact amount of feel where, like, I could have just fucking crushed you. I chose to have this much pain for you to feel. Like, you just slammed on the ground. You could have shattered. I could have shattered your entire body. But instead, I chose this exact amount. And that's what he said he was impressed by, was the precision and control with which she allowed him to feel when she broke the moment, rather than it shattering him and him being dead. It's fucking great.
Yeah, and
it's great. It's that other level
with
man.
her skill in that moment where he's like,
well,
it's fucking impressive.
It's a whole nother level that I didn't appreciate in past reads that Rothfuss is taking it to, because I mean, if you consider like the geometrics of this, or just the intricate nature of how they're able to have control over these things, because it's not in our minds, just when we first go through it, it's like, okay, sympathy, and there's this, and it's almost like telekinesis, and there's these qualities to it. But then when you consider just like moving, the thongs, right? Being able to heat something to an exact amount of thongs, or bringing that down and bringing it up, and that amount of precision in your mind.
It also is one of the aspects that points to the fucking massive hole, is that not only was she able to let go of her binding whenever she wanted, she let go at a split second before she smashed it across the table. So he went from not being able to move, thinking he's going to get wrecked here, and she let go at the last possible second, showing not even how easy it is to just let go.
Well, not even just letting go, because she didn't fully, right? She gave him some feeling of that thing hitting the floor. So not only is it that you have control and then you let go. You let go to the degree that you want to let go.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when he's a kid, he doesn't have that power. And again, if we go back to that and try to play devil's advocate, it would have to be like, because of his bloodline, right? Because he has demon's blood, if you want to take it there, like, he just can't. So he nearly kills himself because it's so massive. Like, well, but in that circumstance, if she has, an Alar like Ocean Storm, well, apparently he has an Alar that's massively bigger than anything, because even he can't let it go. Yet then he can in other circumstances. So yeah, it's a big flaw. It's a big problem.
Yeah,
it is. She has an exact amount of kinetic energy that she puts into him right then and there, that doesn't break his spine, but only lets him experience so much
And
anyway,
she chose.
It's impressive.
She chose how much. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, that's what's so impressive about the action in itself, right? And yeah, it's and again, I love that part of it. But yeah, that's, as soon as I bring it up, Dan brings it back to reality with where that's such a cool part. Well, then we also have a big problem here. Where, why isn't he ripping the Dracus apart? Why isn't he pantsing people? Right?
Yeah.
Why isn't he flopping Ambrose's stupid hat off his fucking head or pulling it down over his head? And then also, why is he choking to death?
A lot of the stuff you can fix. A lot of the stuff you can fix with better explanations of how slippage works and how dangerous slippage is. But it's the not being able to, the not letting go of your alar, that you can't fix because there's just too many examples of it. And that's the clearest example of, not only is she able to let it go, but she's got such a subtle touch with it. Like she's got it's just
mastery.
Such a subtle ability to let it go at just the right time and just the right amount. Like it's so subtly done that clearly just letting go of something is very easy if she has that amount of a subtle touch.
It articulates her mastery over it. Right.
Yeah,
because it shows how
it
to exactly what she wants to do.
Controlled she is, but it also shows that just letting go would be super easy. I mean, like what she did was hard, but what just letting go should be super easy if she's able to do that.
Well, when he lets go, right? I like that image too. That I can't remember exactly how it's described, but it's like his mind reels as all the 6 parts come back together. I like picturing that. That's an image that would be pretty cool, visually, where it's just like kind of like.
Yeah, because that was like when we talked about that, in that episode, this was one of the chapters I brought up, was the fact that when Devi threatened him, he just let go, no problem. And then, obviously there's this aspect of it too. Devi demonstrates it as well. This is a very clear episode, a very clear chapter as far as throwing a wrench in that chapter.
I know we've talked about it. Clearly, slippage is the
that's the key for like bad links and that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah,
but that you can fix. But that's just letting go of a link. He's clearly demonstrated that is just a matter of you just stop. Well, I've seen people make that comment before, where it's like, well, it has something to do with slippage. Well, one of the biggest reasons why you would say that is slippage it's innocuous, right? It's something that's not clearly defined, right? It's one of the things that are not clearly defined that's related in this way to sympathy. Still doesn't explain it. I mean, it still doesn't completely explain away what the whole is, what the problem is. No, well, the whole, slippage doesn't explain it at all. It doesn't even, there's nothing about slippage that would explain why you couldn't let go of your alar.
Yeah.
It would only explain why holding the alar would be dangerous. It does not explain why you couldn't just let go of your alar. Because that's just a belief. You just stop believing it. And then it's done immediately. We see it demonstrated over and over and over again that all you do is just stop believing it and then it's done.
Wait a minute. Tim brings up an interesting point because with slippage, I mean, maybe it's an over-calculation or a under-calculation, whatever. But the fact that guys get their arms ripped off when it happens, maybe that has something to do with it, that it's slippage in that your calculation of how much alar you put forth initially is too much, and so Kvothe can't let go because he's put too much into it.
But there's nothing about slippage. There's nothing about slippage that would explain why you couldn't let go. You could say that you could say that
not that you can't let go, but not that you can't let go, but that you've put so much initial force into it, so much alar into or bound your alar to something, such a huge force that
the way
whether you let go or not,
the damage would come into play. The way you would think slippage would come into play is if he linked the air outside to the air in his lungs, and he literally damaged his lungs so that his lungs were ripped apart because of the
That would make a
pressure
lot of
or
sense.
whatever.
So
Like
you're saying it's
slippage
amount of force
destroyed
and not
your
time.
lungs. But what he describes is that he couldn't suck in the air. So that is not slippage. That is the link that he created made it impossible for him to suck in air. So in that situation, all he has to do is let go of his alar, and then he should be able to breathe like normal. So slippage does not explain that at all. It would explain it if he had done physical damage to his lungs or something along those lines. But then it, it finishes with she goes, she's not going to give, she's demanding that he pays up the full amount of the loan, the 9 talents, at the end of the term. And if he doesn't have it, he's late. She's going to sell his blood. And then she, kicks him out of there. And I like it where it ends with, the binding that held me fell away, and I drew a deep breath. I understand, Devi, I said, but get out, she shouted. I got out. I would like to say it was a dignified exit, but that would not be the truth. And then, he obviously scrambled out of there like a little sissy.
Like a little
sissy.
Yeah.
Yeah, tail between his legs.
I picture him like tripping and falling on his ass.
Yeah.
Scurrying out of there.
Yeah. He did not leave walking out like Clint Eastwood.
No, he rushed. I think he ran
out. No, he got his ass kicked.
Yeah. He ran out as quickly as he could. He's sweating. He's clammy. Barely. He's now able to breathe
Costanza
again.
Exit.
Yeah. Well, he didn't try to leave on a high note. This definitely wasn't a high note.
No.
He left on a low note with his tail between his legs, lucky to leave with his life. And in a bad position, in a very bad position. But they come back, which is great. They get a little reunited. And it feels so good, as Fitz would like to say. So Devi's introduction here is great. I like that he's hearing 2 female voices, and they're familiar, but he doesn't know it's Devi yet. And he's like, let him pitch a 12-color fit. Like basically saying, I don't give a shit. And then let him shit out his liver for all I care. I love that line. I think it's tremendous. I love her anger is great, man. I do also definitely like the fact that she's not ashamed of being expelled. Like when they mention it before Mola doesn't want to mention it. She's like walking on eggshells about the subject. Yeah. It's also pretty cool that so now we know Devi, we knew she was at the university, but we don't know, we would have no reason to know that Mola knows her, that although we kind of got a hint there earlier that she knew of her. But then also when we see Fella, that's pretty great with the 2 of them. But when she dances around, she showed me the ropes back when I was new here, back before she left. And Devi says proudly, expelled. Devi said proudly, I'm not ashamed of it. I like that about her,
Yeah. Yeah, she's great in this whole part. I mean, I like the, her reasoning behind it. Obviously, she's got a history with Ambrose. She says she wants a piece of him. He beats whores, but it also seems like they probably dated and he got grabby with her, or they've had some kind of run-in. It's not just how he treats other people. There's something personal there. She's got a personal hatred towards him. She doesn't spell it out, but it seems pretty clear that they've had a run-in with the past. And we get further, evidence for just how big of a douchebag Ambrose is that, he's fucking paying money to sleep with women and then beating them.
Well, I was going to also say, everybody hates this fucking guy, man.
Yeah.
we already have a lot of reasons, but when it's everyone fucking hates this dude, man, he's the worst.
It's one thing when you're a dick or you're abusing your power and that kind of stuff, but when you're just beating defenseless, people who are fucking very low on the rung of society and they're already fucking beaten down by their lives, and you beat those people, man, you're taking it to a whole nother level of scumbag.
You're a sadistic fuck. You're actually disturbed and sick, and he is. Yeah.
Yeah,
But,
he's a big frickin' douche, and then you get, I like, Kavoth apologizes to her, and she's like, "Well, I'll be damned. Maybe you do have half a brain in your head." And he's like, I didn't think I could trust you. I was wrong, and I regret it. It wasn't the clearest thinking I've ever done. She eyed me for a long moment. "We're not friends," she said curtly, her expression still icy. "But if you're still alive at the end of this, we'll talk." And then immediately going into the "little fella," she brushed past me and gave fella a hug. "You're all grown up." She stepped back and held fella at arm's length, looking her over appreciatively. "My lord, you look like a 10-stripe Modegan whore. He'll love it."
So one of the things that I do like a lot about Devi here is that quality of like, we're not friends, but if you're still alive, we'll talk, at the end of this.
Yeah.
Like, just, I appreciate the clear, when someone keeps it very clear where we stand. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a nice quality, especially in a character like her. Like, she's not just she's not just a powerful person that can fuck you over. She was extraordinarily friendly to Kavoth all the way up until that point, and she was always very clear and consistent with the approach that she had with him. And I think once or twice she tried to get over on him early, and then that came back, and Kavoth got to use it on her. But
I mean, she's hustling him the whole time, like with her minimums and stuff that she doesn't actually have minimums. She's just trying to get him to borrow an amount that he can't pay back, so that she can demand favors from him. So I mean, she's hustling him, but she's
not pulling the wool over his eyes, though. I mean, that's
just her job. I mean, that's just what she does. She's
it's part of the business.
Her job is being a hustler. Yeah, but she clearly started to think of Kavoth as a friend, because I mean, she's a bit.
No wonder she got so spurned. Her. Yeah, exactly. She got super butthurt about it, and that she was spurned was the word I used, but I'll take butthurt.
I mean, I'll just justifiably butthurt. I mean, if someone attacked me, started accusing me of things I didn't do, and then tried to attack me, I'm probably gonna be a little miffed at it. I ain't butthurt, but I'd be miffed. She gets some butthurt.
I keep saying butthurt.
I don't know. I like it.
I'll just throw it in. So I would say Kavoth was being very loose butthole. His approach to Fella.
He's definitely being loose butthole.
But yeah, it's pretty great.
Devi's is a tighter butthole than Kavoth. She was a little loose butthole, but not as loose.
The scale it's so easy to find, especially for listeners. I do love
people who have never seen that are going to be like, "What the fuck are they talking about?"
Yeah, what the hell, man? It's all about blasting nipples and how loose and tight.
Yeah.
And
Hey, sorry, you guys need to start watching better shows. And
watch the same things. Yeah, watch the same things we do. And we're not even going to tell you the show, clearly. We're just going to leave it. If Fitz was on here, he would have said it already, because he has to name what the reference is.
From...
That was Seinfeld, episode 11, just for you guys. You want to go look at it. That wasn't Seinfeld, so good luck. I love the little touches of, like, little fella, right? Because it's like, she puts it in there, it's like, oh yeah, you have to imagine. We don't exactly know how long ago Debbie was there, but we have to imagine if she was, fella would have been younger also, right? And she's younger than Debbie, so it just makes sense. And and then they pepper in that Modegan, and then they focus on it later about fella. But yeah, they laid on pretty thick that she's pretty attractive. Everybody's giving her the props.
Yeah, and she gives her the earrings, and they turn out to be the earrings that she got from that were Dennis previously. It doesn't expressly say it. Like he says, "Those are lovely earrings."
Definitely insinuates.
Where did you come by them? Her eyes narrowed as if she were trying to decide whether or not to take offense. "A pretty young boy used them to settle his debt," she said. "Not that it's any of your business." I shrugged, just curious. So he doesn't spell it out, but I mean, that is a clear implication that those were the only reason he would recognize those earrings is because they're Dennis, and someone who would need to settle a debt with a Gaelet was Jeffrey, and she had earrings, that were worth, something that Kavoth would recognize. So, you could put 2 and 2 together, but Rothfuss loves to put in things where he does not explicitly tell you what happened there, but he implies it well enough where you can figure it out if you want to, if you want to kind of just dig in a little bit to what's going on. So that was clearly what happened is Denna gave Jeffrey those earrings so he could settle his debt and get back home. So just more of an example of Denna's kind-heartedness, and she's a good person. I mean, you can dislike her for whatever reason, but she's not like some dirtbag. She's got a good heart on her. I mean, she'll try to take care of people who are down and out, who are in a bad spot. She seems to be just hustling mostly douchebags. I mean, she's not fucking rolling with cool dudes. Savoy probably the coolest one that she's hanging out with, but
yeah, he's even a little sketchy. Yeah, and then also, and what's interesting about the thing with the earrings is we then get the reveal of the ring and what she used it for. So we get that basically what the cost was for him to be able to get, for her to be able to get the ring for it's not in this chapter, but
you mean the necklace? The necklace.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the necklace for the what she had to pawn for the loot. So all this stuff, or for the loot case. So all of this is for other people. I mean, these things are clearly, it's been built up enough that these are important to her, but they do also they're important also in the fact that it gives her agency to be able to do things of this nature, to help out Jeffrey, who's going to probably end up in the gutter somewhere if he doesn't have some help from somebody.
Yeah, I mean, she gave up her nest egg. I mean, that was a lot of money. Extravagantly expensive loot case that she paid to have made for Kavoth. And she helps Jeffrey get back home, get out of debt with Devi. I mean, who knows how much debt he was in, but he was able to pay it off and get the fuck out of town. So, yeah, I mean, she gave up a shit ton of money. And I don't know. It's not told whether she had some left over, but it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, it seems more like she gave up a lot in terms of her safety net or nest egg,
which is I think that's a large reason why I say how similar Kavoth and Denna are, because when he's got money coming to him, you've mentioned a bunch, most of the time he's thinking about what he could do with the money, and it's not like, how sweet my life could be. It's like, oh, think of all these things I could do for Ari or for Denna or for, he's not necessarily thinking about himself.
Typically on his list, on his more extravagant list, he has harp for Denna. That's on the list of his more extravagant items, along with, how much tuition this buys me. And so some are for him, but he is throwing things. Yeah,
but the things for him are all I could pay for laundry or get, get an extra shirt and pants or something. I mean, he's not dude, I can start, eating 4 steaks a day, fucking go and start gambling, buying some hookers, get some blow.
Hookers and blow, man.
Yeah.
That's the quintessential thing to do with your winnings, right? I thought it was really funny, man. So we keep getting these images of breasts, with Devi. She puts the earrings on her, and she's like, and they look better on you, of course. She shook her head with irritation. Good Lord, woman, if I had tits like yours, I'd own half the world by now. Yeah. And then Sim with you and me both, which
it's such a legendary line.
Yeah. I love, a couple things. So I love that. First of all, Devi just goes, "Who's the idiot?" Which is fucking great. That line cracked me up, man. I laughed out loud reading that line. And then she also shits on Will as well in a minute. But suddenly, after Elodin points out Fella's tits, now everyone's seeing Fella's tits.
Yeah.
Seems like Elodin's got some power here, man.
Yeah.
He's helping reveal things.
Yeah, it's a clear sign of Elodin's power. That's 100% what everybody takes away from this section of the book is
man.
Elodin's prowess.
Well, no, I mean, he had them both standing up there. He had both pawing at her breast, and then suddenly they're popping out. Everybody's watching. Everybody's looking at him. I mean, it's pretty powerful.
The you and me both is such a great line. Like Sim said enthusiastically. Like, it's such a great line. Like, that's one, like, I would imagine when you write that down, you're like, oh, that's fucking just perfect. Like, what a fucking great thing that popped into my head.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic.
Yeah. Who's the idiot? Is fucking perfect for fucking Devi and Sim. Like, that would be the reaction Devi would have to Sim. Like, Rothfuss really gets his characters. Because, yeah, if you were just, like, thinking about it, how would Devi react to Sim? Yeah, she would think he's an idiot. Especially with that. And then if she saw, like, how big of a fucking blabbermouth he is, she'd be like, well, that dude's a fucking mark.
Yeah.
I need to get this guy drunk and fucking talking. I'm going to find out all kinds of secrets.
Yeah, the two of them don't mix well. That's for sure.
No,
or at least they wouldn't.
She would run him freaking ragged. She would work him so hard. He wouldn't even know it. He wouldn't even realize he got worked. He'd be so oblivious to it. Like, she would flirt with him, and he would just think like, "Oh man, she's into me." Like, he'd be like, it's the quintessential, like, you know, the guy that thinks the waitress or the stripper's in love with him. Like, no, guys, she really likes me. It's like, no, man, no. She's using you, buddy.
He is that guy. He's super naive. Super naive.
Yeah. Girl like sure. Devi would just destroy him. And so, yeah, I like that. Who's the fucking idiot? So great.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then I also like their, when they're going through, like, you know, say things like, oh, I'd love another class, but I'm worried it'd go right to my head. He'll buy a bottle and try to pour it into you. Talking about what they're saying, different things that fella can say to Ambrose to extend the date. And so,
well, and then also keep asking him about his poetry. He'll talk the time away. Like, she throws that in, like, so she does know him well, obviously. I mean, and maybe everybody knows that he's, you know, wants to be a poet or whatever, but yeah, I like that she threw that in there as well.
Start conservative, then bring them out a little more towards the end of dinner. Lean, use your shoulders. If he keeps seeing more and more, he'll think he's getting somewhere. He'll keep him from getting grabby. And then will him with the great, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen.
Well, I love the, it's just the lure for a scumbag. It's, it's so funny, man.
Yeah, and then Sim's line's pretty good, too. Do all women in the world secretly know each other? Because that would explain a lot. It's like, nah, dude, you're just really, really bad. Somehow you end up with the fucking hottest girl in school, and probably everybody hates you after that because you're the most naive, boyish. You know what? Like, I bet Sim's too good a person to hate. Like, everybody probably is like, good for him. He's just probably like, he's too good of a dude.
To it. What was funny though is he has that line at the Aeolian with some dude that's with Denna, where he's like, "Oh, good enough or enough to hate a man."
Yeah,
or I think it's Stanchion. Or it's Diak.
Diak getting women, but Sim doesn't succeed with women. Like they are only seeing him fail, and then they finally see him succeed in a major way. And he's such a good dude that it would be hard for anybody to really hate Sim. Like, you gotta be a special kind of douchebag to hate fucking a really
a naturally
upbeat, good person.
Yeah,
he's upbeat. Like, who does? I mean, like, I get, you know, people can be annoyingly upbeat, but that's usually if they're fake. If they're, you know, putting on a show, then it's annoying. But if someone's like, you know, a generally upbeat, positive person, like, fucking let me hang around those people all day long. I want to hang around negative people. Like, Sim is ultra positive, good person. He's just naive. Don't tell him your secrets.
Well, even if that guy annoys you in the morning, which I get annoyed by those people in the morning, it doesn't make me fucking hate them. I'm not going to then like root against the dude.
No.
But there are people out there like that though, that they just constantly have a fucking rain cloud over their head, and they don't want anybody to mess with that rain cloud.
No, so. Yeah, there's definitely something to misery loves company. I mean, there is definitely something to it.
Yeah.
But so then they start making their plans, and she asks Kavoth, he's going to have Devi be the one to light the Mamet on fire. And so she asks him, how far is it to his room? And he goes, a little more than a half mile, I said apologetically. The slippage, Devi cut me off with a gesture. I do my own calculations, she said sharply. And then, he's like, I'll signal you when we're in position, start with the wax, give it a hard half hour, then signal and move onto the clay. Give the clay at least a half an hour. Devi snorted. With a bonfire behind me, it'll take me 15 minutes, tops. It might not be tucked into his sock drawer, you realize. It might be locked away without much air. Devi waved me away. I know my business. I made a half bow. I leave it in your capable hands. That's it? Mola demanded. You lectured me for an hour. You quizzed me. There isn't time, I said simply, and you'll be here to coach her if need be. Besides, Devi happens to be one of the handful of people I suspect might be better sympathists than me. Devi gave me a dark look. Suspect? I beat you like a red-headed stepchild. You're my little sympathy hand puppet. It was 2 span ago, I said. I've learned a lot since then. Hand puppet? Sim asked Will. Will made an explanatory gesture, and they both burst out laughing. I love that. So, Kavoth's response to it is so weak that, like, yeah, but I was tired. Now, I've been practicing. Now I'm way better. I could get you now.
He didn't go with I was tired. It was just literally well, but I'm better now than I was then. Yeah, it's weak. It's really weak. And she hit him with the redhead stepchild. She really hit him with your insult that you love so much.
Yeah, and she separates herself from the redheads because like Kavoth tries to wrap her up in that, and like it's clear, strawberry blonde. It's even mentioned in this very chapter, strawberry blonde. That is not redhead. That's a blonde, strawberry blonde. So, yeah, she should smack him around with that, trying to rope her into that genealogy.
Well, he's not. He's the one that says strawberry blonde, right? I mean, he's the one telling the story.
He also is like, us, we need to stick together or something like that in one of the chapters. Yeah. So he's always trying to rope in the strawberry blondes into his, depravity.
Jeez. Well, yeah, I do. I mean, especially again, Devi's great. She's so great in these where it's just like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I don't need your help. I know exactly like what this takes and everything, which I didn't really get. I didn't understand at first I didn't get the half hour and then the hour. You see it once it's happening, like, oh, okay. Because you piece it together, there's a timeline that needs to be adhered to some degree for them to be able to execute everything they're doing. And that's one thing that definitely...
It's also, like, the way to think about it is she's trying to set this thing on fire, but she can't see it.
Yeah.
So she doesn't know when it's set on fire. So when he's like, give it a good 30 minutes, he's like, enforce this link for 30 minutes. And she's like, I don't need 30 minutes. I can do this. I can, focus in this for 15 minutes. Focus on wax for 15, then I can move on to clay. And so, like, she's doing it blind. So she doesn't even know when she set it on fire. So that's why there's a time period in there. It's not that it takes 15 minutes to set it on fire. It's that she's got to put that much energy into it and that much concentration into it that she's got to at least do it that long just to make sure that it does catch on fire.
Yeah. There's also a nice little callback here with the ointment where he says, but if you mix it with piss, it turns into candy.
Yeah.
And delivers it deadpan, which is kind of surprising coming from Sim. Delicious candy. And he just nods, Kavoth nods seriously, yes, sir. I like the moment of Mola stares in confusion. Devi pointedly ignored us and began piling wood on the fire. Where I've been in that situations so many times where my friends and I are telling inside joke shit Kind of like the loose and tight butthole we just did.
Yeah.
Where people around us are like, what the fuck? Like, have no clue what the hell we're talking about.
Inside jokes are the best. Inside jokes are the best. It's a good barrier to entry.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Getting ahead of ourselves towards that. I like, again, dude, Devi's so great. And her introduction here is so great to me. Her curse, Telu's tits and teeth.
Yeah. Telu's tits and teeth. It's a great curse.
It's so great, man.
What are you doing out in this?
Well, and it is wild to consider too, because it's funny. I love how honest she is, because she's like, "Are you just trying to make me feel a little bit less pissed because you're covered in fucking snow and like you're trembling and blue? Like, what's wrong with you? Why would you do this?"
Yeah, it's not going to make me feel bad for you. And then she's like, "Well, no, you know what? It actually is, brightening my mood. It is helping." And I also like the aspect of it when he gets there and he looks around and he noticed she's got a second bookshelf. It was still mostly bare, but she's starting to stack up expensive books, and that's one of the things that eventually helps him realize like the game she's playing. Like when he starts calculating how much her books are worth, and he's like, Jesus Christ, man, she's got more money than I've ever seen just in books. Like, this is not a person who needs, my 6 talent loan.
That also brings up something you brought a while back. I mean, obviously the archives has way more books than she's ever going to own. And that access is extraordinarily attractive to someone like her. And she makes that clear, but it seems like there's something more. Like that hunger and that like literal, what he perceived as almost like a lust to get in the archives seemed to be about much more than just the access to the books, because she has money and she can obviously she's getting these books, getting certain books. It is obviously the archives, and it's the biggest collection in their world, as far as we know, of books that are, being, collected from all over the world and brought there. So that's very attractive. But yeah, again, it does kind of.
But like, still, it's still when you look at it, it's a library, and she's got money. She could buy books, but like, it could be that she wants a specific book, but it can't just be like she just wishes she had the ability to go through and read some books. Like that, I can't imagine that's it, because it's not like she's just buying, a bunch of used copies of books. She's buying like first print editions, and she's like a collector. Mm-hmm. And so it's not so much that she's just stacking books just to read. She's buying specific expensive books. And if it was just a general desire for information, you would think she would just be, fucking piling up books. She would be looking for cheap books.
I guess it's that 4-plate door. I don't know.
Could be a 4-plate door, or there's some kind of specific information in the library that she wants access to, that's in the archives, that's hidden, that Kavoth doesn't know about, but she knows about.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely something. There's something more. It does seem like there's something more going on there, because why would... I guess Rothfuss could show her with these bookcases, just to keep it in your mind that she wants the archives, but it brings up that there must be something else, because it's also showing that she has access to books. So...
Yeah, if my guess would be that, if she'll go at something with her and Ari, they will get behind the 4-plate door is what I think will happen. That she'll interact with Ari, or it could be like Ari escapes Devi and goes behind the 4-plate door to escape her. I don't know, but I think she will play some aspect in Kavoth needing to get behind that 4-plate door because of something she does, or she goes behind it herself. it would fit together too. Like, like he went to get his heart's desire, and it could be that Ari's his heart's desire. Devi's the demon that he has to trick. I don't know who the angel would be.
So he tricks her into helping him get behind the door.
To get his heart's desire. So it could be that Ari's to get Ari back.
Maybe she's behind the door and he's, I don't know.
It could be something along those lines. Maybe it's, it obviously they could be turning that story into a fairy tale thing, like tricking, had to trick a demon to get his heart's desire. It could be something not as fairy tale story type of thing, but like the fact that she's called Demon Devi seems like her and Ari are headed for a collision, and I think Princess Ariel is likely going to be one of the princesses that he has to rescue from the Barrow King. So I could very easily see a scenario where Devi, Ari connect, something happens where at least Ari goes behind the 4-plate door. Kavoth has to do something with Devi to be able to figure out maybe how to get back there. I don't know. I think Scarpy will play a role too. I think because I do think that Faye Renial's behind that 4-plate door, and I think Scarpy is the old man in that story. So yeah, I think there's going to be something to do with Scarpy, Devi, Ari at least, and the 4-plate door in book 3. I think that those 3 are going to play a part.
I mean, it would make sense if book 3 is the last book, that there's a culmination of things that will occur. Right? I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me, just in looking at literature in itself, and especially a story like this where there's so many stories that are building, and they need to come to eventually have to end the story, right? Like there's got to be some sort of culminating factor, unless you're just going to kill everybody off. And there's another Duke of Gibeah just wipes people out just to work on their organs.
Yeah, it'd be a weird choice.
Yeah, feels like it.
But yeah, then so he starts to make it up to her. He offers his little symbolic penance piece, and then he like, I've spent a lot of time trying to think of some gesture to make a suitable apology to you. She's like, you decided it would be best to walk here during the worst weather of the year. I decided it would be best if we talked. The weather was just a happy accident. And they start talking about that. He starts to explain that the part of the reason why he was acting the way he was acting is not only someone was trying to kill him, but he also had been dosed with the plum bob. I don't think he's really in his own mind blaming the plum bob for how he acted with Devi, but he's bringing it up because he knows Devi was responsible for it. So he plays that card, and then she reacts to it. She starts to deny it, but he can see through her lie. And then she's like, well, you can't prove it. He's like, look, I'm not trying to tell on you. I'm not trying to get you in trouble. I'm just letting you know that just like I fucked you over, you fucked me over.
Yeah. He's tipping the balance, he's tipping the balance at least to some degree, and giving her a little bit of feeling of guilt, which actually works.
Yeah, and she lets us know that she didn't know it was for Ambrose. She says some rich Tosh came around, made a stunningly good offer, and she says she would never do business with Ambrose, and I didn't know it was for you, I swear. You knew it was for someone, I said. And so he's like, here's how I see it. Recently, we've both done something rather foolish, something we regret. I pulled the robe more closely around my shoulders. And while these two things certainly don't cancel each other out, it does seem to me that they establish some sort of equilibrium. Held up my hands as if they were balancing plates on a scale. Devi gave me a small, embarrassed smile. Perhaps I was hasty and demanding full repayment. I returned the smile and felt myself relax. How would you feel about sticking to the original terms of our loan? That seems fair. Devi held out a hand over the desk, and I shook it. The last of the tension in the room evaporated, and I felt a long-standing piece of worry unknot itself in my chest.
Yeah, it's interesting. They have the conversation that we that we I don't know, when reading it and they face off and all that. It's like, why don't they just talk?
Yeah.
Like, why don't they just have this out and have the conversation they're having now? Rather than everybody's playing against each other and everybody's trying to get one over on the other and not be honest, and that's what happens. They end up almost killing each other.
Yeah, they both reacted so poorly. I mean, both they just kept escalating it instead, and both had opportunities to de-escalate the situation and to step back and like, hold on, it's getting the accusations here are getting out of control. Let's just step back and tell me what's going on with you. Let me explain my situation. Like they had opportunities, but it's Kavoth's personality. He's a hothead. He is brash. He sometimes overreacts, and it's a character flaw. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like it's frustrating to read those type of things, but it's frustrating in the good way, where it's like you're frustrated with the character. You're not frustrated with Rothfuss's writing. You're frustrated with the character, and he's making choices that you don't like. But you need characters to make choices that you don't like for a story to be interesting. If they're always doing what you expect and what you want them to do, that's not interesting.
There's no tension.
Well, that would be good. No tension would be good, but
Well, this is how you get to where you're sweating and drinking Pepto-Bismol while you're reading the books and just freaking out.
Oh man, that was like 7 bottles during that battle with Devi.
I like the. It's interesting how they both, once it's over, once like they're on an even footing, they both are just kind of like, then they're just completely honest. And Devi, it kind of reminds me of myself, where she's like, I was so angry with you. I don't know if I have ever been that angry with someone in my whole life, with anyone in my whole life like that. So she's just kind of like still feeling it now that it's gone. Unfortunately, I have that trait where I'll hang on to anger forever.
Yeah.
Like basically looking at someone and I'll always have this anger against them unless it is addressed. And I'll just hold on to that forever, basically.
Well, it also shows you that she had a lot of respect or trust or faith in Kavoth for it to even get to that point. Like she felt betrayed, and you're not going to feel betrayed unless you trust the other person to begin with. So it shows she felt like Kavoth was someone she could, trust, that he was a friend, not just a mark.
Mm. Well, and then it's also interesting where she and then she asks, "Are you really still getting after echoes from the Plum Bob?" Which is interesting because it's sort of like it's almost an admittance that they're both using these different things within the complexity of their relationship, to where she's like, is that real, or were you just trying to, it doesn't matter now, but which it's interesting that they kind of have this business / personal relationship, and I think that speaks to the complexity of that.
And it shows, she feels bad. I mean, she's not just vicious. She didn't just, sell it in no remorse. She obviously knew she was doing something that's wrong. And so I think that's important in the fact that it's not something where she's just like, so what? That's just what I do. There's nothing wrong with it. I got to do what I got to do. And da-da-da. Like she knows what she did is wrong. She feels it, that it's wrong. It's not just that Kavoth thinks what she did is wrong. She thinks what she did is wrong. But she's like, I really wanted them books. Those were some dope ass books.
Well, and then she did say, speaking of what we were talking about earlier, she says, normally I'd never make something like that, but unexpurgated copies are just impossible to find. So getting more specific towards what she has access to versus what she would be able to get with that access. So, but
he wrote that just purely so he could put that word in there.
Well, and then it does well. And she's kind of defending herself also because Simmons basically saying like, "Yeah, you can't factor for shit," and she's just like, "I'm not proud of selling it." She's kind of again, like you were saying, she does have an actual conscience, and it does bother her, especially that it was Ambrose. It seems.
Yeah, she's like, I'm not proud of selling it. She admitted, but then, she's got the great personality where she's like, then after a moment, she looked up again, grinning. But the Tegnoste has gorgeous illustrations.
Yeah, the book is dope. Yeah. I haven't seen the book. Oh, it's dope. It's so great.
Fucking thumps.
Thumps.
But yeah, then so another aspect of that is we've talked about like the theory that Ari gave Kavoth the plumb bob. I just cannot imagine a scenario where Devi made it, gave it to Ambrose's men, and then he gave it to Ari to give to Kavoth. Like, it just seems so convoluted for that to be the path that it went. Like, why Ari? Why would Ambrose choose Ari of all people? Because it would make sense if he would choose Ari as Ari. Like, where Kavoth wouldn't expect Ari to do anything bad to him.
Yeah.
So she could secretly give it to him and he wouldn't expect it. But to have Ari go out in public during the day, dressed up like a Modegan woman, putting on a show, and then going to Kavoth, and you're risking Kavoth seeing through her ruse. She's cracked. She's terrified of being around people. She could flip out, and it just blows up in his face. It seems a stupid roundabout way to give Kavoth the plumb bob if you're going to use Ari. It seems a real dumb way to do it. Seems like there would be smarter ways to use Ari, and if you were going to use Ari, it makes much more sense if he actually used a Modegan noblewoman than using Ari to pretend she's a Modegan noblewoman. Just doesn't make sense. Especially not with Devi being involved.
It definitely feels like one of those theories that because of what's in the Slow Regard of Silent Things, you can make the connections. It doesn't improve the book, though. I mean, it gives further intrigue and it gives more complexity to the relationships. Okay, fair enough. But all the reasons you just gave are the most damning towards it being Ari. And for Rothfuss to choose that. It would more be like, in a way that what's in the Slow Regards of Silent Things is to basically throw off or to maybe give people the reason to have the conjecture and just kind of laugh about it to himself, where it's like, they're going to think this is, but it's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
or he was trying to show that Ari's in tune with what's going on with Kavoth. And so all these things about the plumb bob, the reason those things are in her story is to show that she's in tune with Kavoth so much that when he's getting plumb bob, she's around things that are similar to what happened to him. She's around a burgundy dress when a girl in a burgundy dress gives Kavoth the plumb bob. She's around plums and nutmeg. She's, these things could be clues to how in tune she is to Kavoth, because that's how the story ends, is she's so in tune with him that she knows he's coming to visit, and she knows he's coming, a day before she initially thought. And like that, Kavoth in the chapter when he sees Ari, he point blank's like, Ari doesn't expect me. Not only does she expect him, she expects him, and she expects him to bring 3 gifts, and she would have no prior knowledge. So when you add in like the plumb bob stuff, it makes more sense if this is showing how in tune she is with Kavoth, because that's how the story ends, rather than it shows that she was part of a plot to fuck him over. That just, it's so convoluted.
Okay, obviously she's not willingly causing him pain because it seems like her role is to protect him.
Yeah.
So if she's doing it, and I know we did this, but it feels like it's worth mentioning. If she's doing it, then it's because Ambrose has something over on her. right? He has some control over her. She owes somebody something of that nature, which is why it would be so hurtful for her to then do it. I still don't believe she would do it.
This is like you have something over a load and you use him as a critical pawn in your plan, and it's like the dude is such a wild card.
Yeah,
like it just
and
like why would you use, you don't want to use an unreliable crazy person to be a central figure
crazy,
in your
crazy and
your
powerful.
plan. Yeah, and
crazy,
same with
powerful,
Ari. Ari is
cunning.
also crazy and powerful
and cunning, and can find a way out of it, and can
I mean, Ari is clearly more powerful than Ambrose.
It's all right. So it's actually 100%. It's actually really interesting, however, to consider where I see that the theory is actually interesting is because it's so easy to
it's interesting in a respect of like it's unexpected. It would be different. It would be turning the story in a direction you wouldn't necessarily expect on the surface, but it's because it would make things so convoluted where it's just like it's not tight. It's not like it's like the arrow catch. It's subtle and it's intricate, and like when you get it, it pays off big time. This would not pay off. This would like just be sending up red flags where you're like, hold on, wait a minute. Like, why would this happen? Like, in order to put all those pieces back together, I just can't see like maybe Rothfuss could come up with a way that would like blow my doors off that I just don't expect. But barring that, I can't think of anything that if that was the case that I would be satisfied with the explanation.
What I was going to say, though, is why I find it interesting is that I think if you put the evidence against each other for it being Ari that drugged him versus not, I think it's overwhelming that it's not. But there is enough evidence that you can actually make a case. Like, you can legitimately make a case. That's why I find it interesting. Because once you put them together, once you put them next to each other, I think it's very, very clear that Ari did not do it because it doesn't make the story better. I mean, you just apply the original rules of having a theory. Does it make it better? Does it make Rothfuss look like a hack versus an obviously extraordinarily talented writer?
Yeah, that's the important metric because he leaves so much up to implication where he's not explicitly telling you what's going on in every situation. So much of it is implied, and it points in so many different directions where you can just take an individual moment. You can say, well, it would make sense if it does this. It would also make sense if it means that. So it could make sense either way. But then when you step back and you're like, well, how does it fit into the entire structure of the story? Does it make the story better? Or does it make it worse? And this is one of those ones where unless he has an explanation that I just can't anticipate, it would make it worse because it would just, then I'm going to be like, nah, that's a massive hole. That's such a convoluted plan. Like it seems very tight if it is Ambrose goes to Devi gives him the thing. He's got something over a lady jail or a member of her court and who's a Modagan woman, and he gets her to do it. That all fits together, no holes, no reason to question it. That would all make perfect sense. Ari brings up huge red flags.
Well, and it's the nature of the story itself that it brings the reasoning simply based off of how much you can question and how many connections you can make. So there's this character that's an outlier. Just that in itself. Well, who is she? Who could she be? That in itself brings the theory. You know what I mean? It's begging for a theory.
Yeah.
Because but is it consistent with Ari's character? That's an ultimate question. Is it because you have to have these things be somewhat consistent. Now, she is a wild card, so you could add that in. But okay, then is it elegant? Because his writing is elegant. The connections he makes make sense.
She's
have these wild outliers.
she's so, like, when we're in her head, she's so concerned about doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, to the point where putting an object on the wrong shelf, she's like, no.
It's unfathomable. Like, she can't, it's not even unfathomable. It's like she can't physically allow it to happen. You know what I mean? Like, and she just continuously thinks about it. And she's like, I know that's not where it goes. Where does it go? Where does it go? You can tell. I mean, she's got like an OCD type thing going on, but to an extreme level, because she knows where things go and how things fit. So this idea that she's just going to randomly do something that's unethical.
Yeah, and if she was like
cares about
drugging Kavoth,
world,
and then we're in her head for the next few days, and she doesn't think about it once, like no. We've been in her head. This is a person who would think about that.
Well, no. So what people then have to depend on is, well, she's cracked. So she's got this schizophrenic break or this psychotic break where she just doesn't access it. She just turns those things off. I was like, well,
we don't see her doing that in
that's
any other situation. That's why it just keeps getting more and more convoluted. Like you have to keep coming up with excuse after excuse after excuse. Like the other explanation, you don't have to come up with any excuses. Well, it all fits perfectly. So it's like if one fits perfectly and the other, you got to fucking bend over backwards, turn yourself into a pretzel to attempt, and it's still, even when you do that, it's not satisfying.
Well, that's what I also mean by. So it's another important part of a theory is that if it becomes more convoluted, if it's less elegant, that's why I use the word elegant, because his connections are. And if you're going to make something, you're forcing it. That's the thing. I mean, that's what a lot of times happens with these theories is you just ham-fist it into the thing that you want it to be. It's not working. You know, you have to depend on those little pieces of evidence that do allow the theory to exist. But eventually you got to, give up the ghost once you realize it's not working. So stop trying to force something that becomes more convoluted, makes Rossif look like less of a thoughtful writer. He's so careful with all these connections he makes. He's extraordinarily careful. Yeah. The idea that he just got sloppy with this one, why? It's very easy. I mean, I didn't write these stories, but it would be quite simple to change, relatively speaking, it would be quite easy to change this character, right? She wears something else. I mean, there's so many different ways that you could change that scene to make it a different individual that ends up poisoning him, or him getting it somewhere else. He gets it on the rooftop with Ari. They eat together. What are we talking about? I know Ambrose doesn't probably know that, but they eat together. She has a cup for him. She has the best chance of anybody to poison him.
Yeah.
Right? Other than like Anchor maybe, or probably still. So, yeah, I'm not buying it, bro. So no. I don't believe in your theory that you keep presenting. Ari drugged him.
Yeah, I recant that theory. But yeah, I also like the way it ends with he comes out in a robe and he's like, I won't impugn your honor by asking why you own a robe much longer and broader in the shoulder than anything a delicate young lady of your size could ever wear. Devi snorted indelicately and rolled her eyes. I like those little aspects of like you get pieces of, because obviously you're in Kavoth's head. So this is going to be the story of Kavoth. You're going to get his story. You're not going to get all the details of what Elodin is doing, when Kavoth's not around, or what Devi's doing when Kavoth's not around, or Denna, or any of these characters. You don't know what they're doing when Kavoth's not there, because this is Kavoth's story. He's telling it from his perspective, what he lived. So he's not with them. It's kind of like how you don't exist when I'm not around.
Yeah.
And
I'm just waiting.
I'm
just waiting for the next time we have one of these.
Exactly. And so
a buddy of mine, a guy that we both know, people that he worked with, like, they get intrigued because he just does his job and doesn't really talk about his hobbies and things. Like, they think he's really private. So like, dude, what do you do? Like, on the weekends, like what are your hobbies? What do you do? And he goes, I just wait. They're like, what do you mean? I just, wait. We're just waiting till, we come back. Wait until Monday.
Yeah.
Which I love that.
I just sit in a chair and I look at a wall.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you just picture like, no, I just sit there quietly for 2 days, and then I'm back and I'm just
can't turn my mind off. Like, what do you just like think about things? Like, no, I don't think about anything. Just kind of turn off.
I literally just sit there and wait. That's funny.
But yeah, so you get like little pieces of their personalities, what they're doing, little hints. He just kind of implies, that Devi's got a social life outside of Kavoth. Like she is a little bit of a playgirl. Like she's not, he's not going around talking about Devi bringing in dudes or hanging out and partying, having fun and shit. But there's implications that is what she does. She's not a hermit, or she's not a nun, and she's out there having her fun. It's just we're not getting that story.
Yeah, if Kavoth was a few years older and on his game, he would be having some fun with Devi. I mean, she flirts with him every single time they hang out. This is
they do like buddy reads with each other. I mean, they read a book and then they talk about the book that they both read. Like she loans him books,
true.
And, they read them.
I guess
and
that's
talk
true.
About them. So yeah, like he doesn't completely ignore all the super fun that he could be having with Devi.
Well, okay. Yeah, I guess the fun I'm talking about is the fact that she flirts with him every time they get together. And he's just, he's a little boy with it, where he's just like, change the subject.
Even this one with the, I won't impugn your honor. I mean, she just snorts and rolls her eyes. Yeah. Fucking child. But yeah, then another aspect, like he offers to pay the debt that he owes her, and she's like, "Let's just stick to our original deal." Like first, you're like, "Okay, yeah, so Devi's being cool," but realistically, Devi's a hustler, and she's hoping that Kavoth's gonna fucking blow all the money and not be able to pay his debt, and she's gonna be able to use that to get into archives. That's her game. Is that she hopes that they borrow enough money that they can't pay it back so that she can force them to, do some kind of a deal.
It's a smart strategy, because if, things didn't work out the way he wanted them to, he went out and spent some money, right?
Yeah, I mean, and then Kavoth's like, all right, woo, got that burden off my back. It's like, no, you didn't. You still owe it. Like, now you're risking not being able to pay it. And then he's like, and I'm out there, I'm buying pants and socks and shoes, I like some shirts, fucking
I love
paper.
The way it goes is great. It's, he talks about, there's a vast difference between having some coin and no coin. There's a feeling of helplessness that comes from having an empty purse. It's like seed grain. At the end of a long winter, if you have some grain left, you can use it for seed. You have control over your life. You can use that grain and make plans for the future, but if you have no grain for seed in the spring, you're helpless. No amount of hard work or good intention will make crops grow if you don't have the seed to start with. So I bought clothes.
Yeah, he just goes on to seed. The only seeds he bought were loot strings. That's the only thing that helps him make money. None of the rest is buying seeds. He was buying corn. Now, seedless corn.
Yeah. Now, however, it's totally understandable, because he's always ripping up shirts, pants, woolen socks, hat, gloves, scarf. I mean, he did just almost freeze to death, it seems. But yeah, he splurges, sea salt, dried peas, peach preserves, warm slippers for Ari, all these things.
What would have been great is if
paper, some ink.
If after this, like, he goes up to a guy that's selling watermelon, and he's like, "You want the watermelon with the seeds?" "Nah, you know what? Give me the seedless watermelon."
That would have been pretty perfect. But also above and beyond that, it'd be like, wow, this must have been, imported from far away. Like, watermelon's not in season, so he buys like the most expensive fruit possible. And it's like, well, I give you the seed, and then the seeded watermelon also is like, 3 jots cheaper or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, no, let's take it up a notch. Man.
Like, why you could use these seeds? You could like plant like a watermelon patch. Trust me, like the ground is just perfect for it. This is the right time to plant. I don't want the seeds. Give me the seedless.
So this is good, and you could have had a tinker. So there could have been a tinker because he ignores the good advice of the tinker quite a few times.
Mm.
It's like, yeah, you should buy the watermelon and put it in the patch behind,
Yeah.
and plant it with Ari, and put it in the little their little whatever.
Now, the tinker in this situation would have been like, you should go pay your debt, and then you know how much you can spend. Like that's what you should do. You should go back to her and pay your debt up front, and then you'll be okay.
That's what's so funny about it to me is like he took the time to not only explain the difference of having money and not having money, but also an analogy or a metaphor that as old as the earth, and talks about it, and then so I bought clothes, and he just goes right into so I ignored all that, and
it's like granted these it's not like he's being extravagant. He's just buying like the basic his basic needs, but he could have got by without these things, like he'd been getting by without them. Yeah, it's one of those ones where it's like, nah, I get it. Especially if you're broke, having some clothes, it's kind of nice, but is it really absolutely necessary? Would have paying Devi off been the smarter move? Probably.
Well, and again, the whole reason why I pointed out is, he's buying practical things, but he just made a whole big deal of talking about how having some money and no money is a big difference.
Or at least if he just spent, he made a point of like, so I took the money I owed Devi and I put that aside.
Yeah.
And that's untouchable.
Yeah.
But instead, he just made it seem like he's like fucking digging a hole.
Yeah. Well, and obviously it does work out because, what comes up, but yeah, it's one of those funny things where Rothfuss always keeps us on that edge with Kvothe, where it's like, there's always that, he's got some money, but he needs these things, and he's poor, and that weighs heavy, obviously, on somebody's mind when they don't have cash coming in.